Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, Bucks and fans joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it's showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We rooting, and we go into that fight to land on the line.
What's up, boxing fans? This is the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast. I am your host, Chris Carlson. We're live, per usual, 6 on the West, 9 on the East, and 2 UK time. Hope everybody enjoyed the holiday, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever. Maybe you don't believe in any of that and you just spend family time. That's cool, too. Hopefully everybody had a good holiday season. Season's greetings from a chilly Minnesota winter so far in December. I think we set some records around Christmas for low temperatures. I, of course, had to make it a little worse and go outside of Minneapolis, almost 3 hours north. It got like 14, 15 degrees lower. So we're right around that negative 15 range. But anyway, we're in the single digits now, so we're doing pretty good here in Minnesota. But anyway, this is one of my favorite shows of the year, and that is the Boxing Year in Review. Obviously, it's 2017 Year in Review, and we like the punchline, the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Obviously, you got a lot of great, right? I should say you got some great stuff in boxing. You got a lot of good. We got a ton of good this year. You got some bad, and then you just got your downright ugly stuff, and that usually has to do with scorecards, right? We saw plenty of those this year. But yeah, I mean, I always get excited for this show. I'm always kind of pumped for this show. My favorite shows are obviously when you're coming off a great weekend and you got a big fight coming up the next weekend. The first chunk of the show is like interesting, riveting recap where everybody's still buzzing, you know what I mean, from the fight, whatever that may be, or the knockout or the upset or whatever, and then steamrolling right into another week. But overall, of course, we'll talk the in general categories, right? The prospect of the year, the promoter of the year, the network, the event, of course, the fighter of the year, knockout fight of the year. So we'll break it down. We'll also kind of talk themes. That's something that, as I'm breaking down the year, we'll definitely go into the themes of everything, because there were a lot of themes. And most of them, I might say, are a lot of the themes this year are positive. We had a lot of positivity in a variety of ways. So I'll definitely just kind of break it on down and bring in the callers. I know a lot of people are kind of busy just around this time with family and traveling and whatnot. So if some people can't make it, I totally understand. But yeah, like I said, there was a lot of themes, whether it's Top Rank and ESPN connecting, or on the other side of the pond, Frank Warren and BT Sports coming together, stadium fights. There were a lot of themes, a lot of 50-50, 60-40 fights made as well. So we'll go over some of the positivity and, of course, the negativity as well. Like I said, it is the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Before we start the show, though, if this is your first time listening to the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast, this podcast centers around boxing, but we do, if you're interested, that is, we do a college ball show that consists of college football. Then it goes to college basketball here in probably about 2 weeks, something like that. Right after the national title game, we'll go to basketball. We'll take that one to the national championship, then the NBA playoffs, the finals, free agency, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, you can always listen to the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast right here live every Wednesday and throughout as far as for the college ball show. It broadcasts live on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It also archives there. It's kind of like the headquarters, right? But, of course, there are plenty of other outlets to listen to the podcast. It's kind of up to you. Obviously, Apple Podcasts is one of the most popular, a.k.a. otherwise known as iTunes. And if you do me a favor there, rate and review the show, that does wonders for the show. But anyway, Player FM is another great outlet for the show. Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn. And also, a couple months ago now, we joined forces with the Grueling Truth Sports Radio Podcast Network. So you can check us out at all. Actually, everything I just named, they have a really good app as well. You can go to the iStore there, or Spreaker. They have one as well. But the gruelingtruth.net, and that includes iHeartRadio. So if you're big on iHeartRadio, the Grueling Truth Sports Network podcast, it's all there as well. They got a great sponsor over there, mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. The gruelingtruth.net, wide variety of podcasts, interviews, whether it's boxing, football, baseball, basketball. And when it comes to boxing, they have, they just had Caleb Truax on not long ago. They've had George Foreman. They have the greats, the legends, but also they keep you updated as for nowadays. So definitely keep an eye out overall for the gruelingtruth.net. I'm glad to have joined forces there with that sports podcast network. Great bunch of guys over there. And gals. Okay, I'm not trying to leave anybody out. Obviously, the fighter of the year, the fight of the year, those will be later in the show, right? I think that's to be expected. A little bit later in the show, we'll get to some of the bigger categories. I may be kind of just bringing you through a lot of these categories, listening to what some people call in have to say as well, and kind of blend in there. You know what I mean? So it'll be kind of a combination of stuff for the show. So I really kind of want to just start about just kind of talking about the year overall. Obviously, 2017, and then we'll get into prospect and trainer and network, event of the year, upset of the year, that type of thing. We'll kind of work our way into this, okay? So, like I was saying, 2017, one of the better years in quite some time now. 2013 rivals it, no doubt. I just think there were more, we have more access now, more outlets, I should say, potentially, right? Not potentially, we have it. But, and obviously, and some of those, I don't know, we had a lot of big fights that year, though, too. It's close. I just think we had more of them. And some of the themes that came to light this year kind of added on to that. And some of it has to do with the strength of the UK now. Another theme was, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail, of boxing days, like a full Saturday of boxing. And a lot of times it wouldn't be going on at the same time. They would kind of schedule it out slowly. You get the UK, then you get a show here, you get a show after, that type of thing. So, phenomenal year, though, really, 2017 really was. I mean, it started out with a bang. I mean, our January is pretty good, especially near the mid to end of it. Then it starts to really kick in, and a lot of that has to do with the World Boxing Super Series, right? That's another great thing that happened this year, even though a lot of people here in the States kind of dogging it right away just because, there was no outlet for us to watch per se. But January started out hot. I mean, it really did. You had Gervonta Davis, who had had a big year, whether it's up and down. had a big year inside of the ring and outside of the ring, unfortunately. But he definitely had a year that it felt like his first two felt like, okay, a star is born here. You know what I mean? And obviously he let down some U.S. fans that were kind of getting behind him, in August when he failed to make the weight and had just a real crappy performance overall. But Gervonta Davis, at the time, what was it, the second youngest champ in the world, the youngest American champ. That obviously is not a champ anymore because he lost his belt due to weight. Now David Benavidez has that squared away, but Jose Pedraza, he was actually on the books an underdog. Was not Pedraza. Pedraza was the favorite, and you didn't really know what to think about Gervonta because you saw him on the way up, and he looked like he just trying to knock dudes out, not really using his skill. And I think you saw a lot more of his skill in the first two fights of the year. I really think that he came a long way that way to be like, okay, when this guy calms down and just doesn't go headhunting or just go for the knockout instead of letting it come to him, this guy's got some skills. He can be a little bit more patient. So anyway, he had a breakout performance against Pedraza. And one of the fights of the year, I don't think it's number one, but obviously Badou Jack versus James DeGale. As we know now, DeGale had already been in some hard fights with Bute and Porky Medina. And, now another tough fight at the beginning of the year. He had a long gap, did have some surgery, and had another tough fight with Truax. So we'll see ultimately where DeGale, lands in 2018. But a great start, no doubt. And we also had a doubleheader on Showtime in January, with the rematch between Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton coming off what many people thought the 2016 Fighter of the Year. That's who I picked as well. I thought he was very deserving. But Leo switched it up, and he looked great. He had a better camp, had his dad there. They mixed up the game plan a little bit and made it more like, but I think adding to it, more like how he looked against Abner Mares not late 2015. I think it was August. So great performance there. It's going to set up a trilogy at some point. I, for one, was okay them taking a break from it. They had, fought back to back, so I'm all right with them taking a break with it, to be honest with you. And then Mikey Garcia had one of the best knockouts of the year over Dejan Zlatishinin. Or Zlatishinin. I mean, we've heard his last name several different ways. But it got off to a busy start. You had Wilder taking on Washington in an interesting fight on the undercard. We had some action as well. I believe that was that Brazil, that Polish fighter. Brazil, and man, he's actually fighting a Polish fighter himself. I believe he's from Poland. But anyway, that was a fun fight. Same with Herd Harrison on that card. An underrated fight was Broner and Granados. That was another fight that stood out around that. February was busy as well, considering. There was also, I went by it, but HBO late January on that same weekend, that last Saturday, there was a very solid doubleheader on HBO. Now Burchelt took care of, it became a lot more one-sided against Francisco Vargas. There's a guy that had a very good year, Burchelt. But the undercard was a really good fight. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Obviously, March, a couple of big fights from March, and I'm not going to cover every fight, guys. You know what I mean? I don't have this stuff all written down. I mean, I have different things written down for the categories, but I don't have it month by month. So, I'm just kind of bringing us into spring and trying to remember kind of off the cuff. But Thurman Garcia, obviously getting a great rating, peaking at over 5 million. And, it was a pretty good fight, right? I mean, the last couple of rounds, the way Thurman wasn't really even trying to pot shot, stick and move. He was more just moving. It definitely hurt that ending. I think if the fight had just been flipped around on its head, went in reverse. So the last couple of rounds, it would have been, let's say those would be the first couple of rounds. You have Thurman kind of sticking and moving and pot shotting and kind of feeling out Garcia. And then slowly but surely the fight would have heated up. And then who knows? By the end of the fight, the last couple of rounds, it may have been Thurman trying to get some rounds, and be more aggressive. I don't know if it would have played out that way, obviously, but I do think people would have looked at it a lot differently and put it up there with one of the top maybe 10 fights of the year, because those first 6 rounds were interesting, very interesting. And Thurman came out going for it, and Garcia took his best punches, definitely got buzzed, but kept going. Another fight that Golovkin and Daniel Jacobs. And that was a fight, unfortunately, it was on pay-per-view, so it definitely shrunk the audience. And that's something that HBO the last couple of years, 2016 and 2017, has had some problems with, obviously. You know what I mean? That's been a problem. But either way, it was a really interesting fight. And I still haven't found 7 rounds to give to Golovkin. It's kind of split on who people thought won that fight. Very tight fight. Could have went either way. I actually did favor Jacobs in that one, but it was a close fight. Good fight, though. Very good fight. And obviously, on the undercard, and that's what made a lot of this a worthy pay-per-view, and I was happy to pay for it, was Roman Gonzalez and Rungvisai. Right? What is it? Sirkat or whatever, Sirkat? Rungvisai. Now most people thought that Rungvisai shouldn't have got the decision, and were surprised being that Gonzalez was the name, right, the name brand, and didn't get the decision. No matter what, it was one of the top fights of the year. No doubt about that. And then we had Tony Bellew and David Haye, which was a big event. It's tough to – it was a big event in the UK, sold-out crowd and everything like that at the O2 Arena. Did really good on pay-per-view. Made Tony Bellew definitely that much popular and known. But obviously there's some issues, how that fight played out with the injury and whatnot. Still a big event, though, and I am looking forward to the rematch, way more than I was originally. Obviously, that has to be put in the upset, one of the upsets of the year for Tony Bellew. You know what I mean? And Bellew, God, he's a funny dude, man. I think it's toe-to-toe, the Sky Sports podcast. He was hilarious. It was a pretty good show and whatnot, but go back and listen to that if you have some time. He is freaking hilarious when he's describing how he met, they first Deontay Wilder overseas right around April for that stadium fight, and how they first had some words, then they were cool, and he just described when he first met him like, oh my God, this guy's towering over me. It was just funny how he said it. But anyway, we got into April, and speaking of that fight, and there were other fights in April, obviously, right? But the one that stands out in the whole year was Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko. 90,000 packed in the Wembley Stadium. And the fight lived up to the hype well beyond, superseded the hype, in my opinion. I really don't see how else you can say it didn't. You know what I mean? Now, as far as it being the fight of the year, some people, just because it's a heavyweight fight, they kind of make it into even a greater fight than it already was, I believe. But we'll get into that too. Not that I don't think it should have been fight of the year. If people think that, that's cool. Everyone's got their own opinion. But I have seen that win a lot this year, and I just don't think it was the fight of the year. You can't be like, well, they're heavyweights too. So, I don't know. But anyway, It was a hell of a fight and a hell of an event. And the passing of the torch happened, even if Tyson Fury already, was lighting the flame of the new heavyweight division back in late 2015, Thanksgiving weekend here. But, I mean, a great outcome. It was all across Sports Center, all over the world. Huge, huge, huge fight. You know what I mean? And that it was great to watch that fight, the heavyweights and whatnot. And we already had some interest sparked in the heavyweight division. We've actually started kind of the last couple of years. We started getting it going and seeing the potential for it. And that really put it over the top, and it cemented him at least being the second biggest star in boxing. Now, when you talk about revenue at the gate and revenue at the pay-per-view, sometimes it comes down to pricing, right? So I guess if you want to get anal and start to break it down, you probably say, it's not a might actually, you probably say Canelo overall is a bigger star because he's creating that kind of revenue. But worldwide star, it's tough to beat Joshua. And he's just getting started, He's just getting started. The guy says he wants to go for a decade. Even if he gives us 6 solid years, that would be crazy if he were to keep it going. Then, of course, and I'm browsing through this stuff, guys, right? We had an ugly thing happen, a very ugly thing happen. Cinco de Mayo weekend in Vegas. The promo, the Chavez Jr. Canelo promo for a September fight against Golovkin, a paid promo, by the way. That was ridiculous. I'm so glad I didn't buy that one, but I'll say as a boxing fan, although I hated the fight, I understood why it got made clearly. In fact, it superseded what I thought it would do on pay-per-view. Did a phenomenal gate, so I understand it. I never was hating on it. You know what I mean? I totally get it. But it was a ridiculous fight. It was a money fight. It was a money grab. It wasn't that much different than Mayweather-McGregor, beyond the fact that, of course, McGregor hadn't fought a professional fight. Obviously, that's over the board. You know what I mean? That sets it apart from the fight I just mentioned. But it's in the realm only because the weight class. We knew that, Chavez was going to be dead at the weight. But anyway, we did close really strong that month with yet another, this time in Sheffield, 28,000. Kell Brook, Errol Spence. Spence brings back the welterweight champion to the States where it belongs. No, I'm just kidding, UK fans. Actually, I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, that was a good fight, man. If you go back and watch that fight, I think people kind of sleep on that fight. That was a good fight. And kudos to Kell Brook for flurrying there 2 separate times near the end where he finally was like, I'm done, I can't see. But a great win. And what a win. Like, nowadays, when especially hot prospects and contenders that have something behind them, they generally don't take on a very hard first title fight. That's just common. I mean, look at Crawford. There's plenty of guys that we think are elite that, they get their feet wet, get a belt, and then see where they're going to go in the division. That's just kind of how it happens. A lot of that has to do with just political stuff. You know what I mean? And just the belt system and who favors who and whatnot. So Spence had to wait for that one too, which kind of slowed him down a little bit, wasn't as sharp. But in the end, it still was smart to wait. A lot of people thought he should risk his injury or ranking to just stay busy. I never believed that, just because I thought if you could go and accomplish that, that's a hell of a way to start your career as a champion anyway. Then you come to July, And I remember there was plenty of good fights in July. Easter Jr. and Denis Shavakov was a very good fight. I wouldn't doubt. Well, Shavakov just lost, I suppose. But, I would like to see at some point a rematch of that fight down the line, too. You never know. He could come back and build himself back or whatever. Very good fight. But obviously, Ward Kovalev, too, was pretty major, right, around that time. In June. So, pretty big. That was pretty big, man. And the way it turned out, it definitely had some, shocking outcome with the knockout and whatnot. So, overall, though, I know there was some controversy with that. I still... I understand, I don't know. Sometimes this stuff gets a little old because it comes down to, fanboy or style of who you like, and you cloud yourself with that rather than what you've been watching for years. And anybody that says you can have Kovalev winning the fight before the end, that's fine. I didn't necessarily see it that way, but okay. As long as it's 4-3 or something, close. My thing is, if you're one of those people on Twitter or in the forums, right, or on YouTube that say there was 3 straight low blows to end the fight and that's how he won. First of all, it's just not true. That's not to say there weren't low blows even before that last round, because there was. There was also some punches that landed on the belt that people said and thought, well, still, it's on the belt. It's low. Well, no, there's a difference on the belt. Something just happened to my chair. There's a difference of being on the belt and below the belt. Like, still on the belt, but on the lower half of it. Now you're getting into the low territory. But as you see at the beginning of the fight, the referee clearly said this is high, this is low, yada, yada, yada. Not high, this is high. This is okay. This is low. So if you think Andre Ward won on 3 straight low blows in a row, you're just not watching it with clear openness. You're just not watching it with an open mind. There's no denying the last punch. That was low, of course. Now, was there one that could have been considered low, like I just described, the lower half of the belt? Sure. Were there some just plain low? Yeah, of course. But let's not act like there wasn't holding down the head and hitting behind the head by Kovalev. And also, let's not act like Kovalev, if we're talking about bending the rules and breaking the rules and illegal stuff, Kovalev at least twice turned his back in the fight. And I guess Ward is a crafty veteran fighter that could be seen as dirty. But that's a description that you could use for a lot of great fighters. I always say this when this stuff comes up. Go back into the black and white fights, man. And I'm not talking just color. I'm not talking race, although a lot of them were that fights back then. But I'm talking about the black and white screen. You go back there, it's rabbit punching left and right. You know what I mean? It's dirty. It's rough. But if you've watched the next boxing, you can not like Ward's style. That's cool. But you can't be so biased. Even on that last low blow, you had Kovalev on the rope, kind of on the rope, just sitting there a little bit, kind of leaning a little bit, hunched over. And literally, now this is to Kovalev's left, but if we're looking at Kovalev and he's looking at us, or as far as facing us, he's not really looking at us on camera, is he? But just to describe it, we see Kovalev kind of slumped on the rope, and Ward is looking on the right side, so Kovalev's left. He's on the side of him for that last punch. Tell me exactly where he was supposed to throw that punch. In the back of the head? Where was he supposed to throw it? It was low. no doubt. Was there some other borderlines in that round? Yes. Was there one a couple rounds before that? Of course. Of course there was. But let's not get carried away. Let's not get carried away on some of that. So, I don't know. I still think it's just so funny. I think it's just funny, man. Oops. Okay. I just had to make sure something's okay. All right, we're good. We're good. Anyway, that was a very interesting fight, right? Very interesting fight. Something is up. Okay, I think I got it fixed for those who text me. Yep, I did. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that should be good to go for those who text me. So anyway, you get into July, and we're starting to hear kind of Mayish, June-ish, all the way up until they had that draft. And I'm speaking of the World Boxing Super Series. The draft happened in July, right? They were adding people down to the last couple days. But obviously the thing that stands out is Horn versus Pacquiao in yet another stadium fight. What was it, 51,000 or something like that in Australia? Jeff Horn, not to be mistaken with Joe Horn. Jeff Horn pulls off one of the upsets of the year. Now, whether you think he did or not, it was a competitive fight. I thought it was a good competitive fight. I did think Pacquiao won the fight, but it was a good, solid fight in my eyes anyway. Once you got into August, you had Lomachenko on ESPN, and this is right around the top-ranked ESPN deal, right? That was the first card with Pacquiao fight, which was very smart to lead with such a name brand guy. Of course, it didn't feel like it was going to be a good fight, but I totally understood and never really ripped why they wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? If you really think about leading off a series, it makes a lot of sense. Lomachenko, another one bites the dust. Obviously, Terrence Crawford does something that hadn't been done in like 10 years, over 10 years, I believe. Unified, not just unified, but he became the undisputed all four belts at 140 champion. He took out Indongo with a body shot in the third round, and that was a wrap. Then it got to Mayweather-McGregor, right? And that's something all summer people were talking about, all year, but especially the summer. And once again, one of the biggest events of the year. I mean, actually, money-wise, is the biggest event of the year, clearly. But interesting on a lot of different levels. And it may have interested Zuffa, Dana White, UFC to go all the way in on boxing. We're going to find out a little bit more at the top of the year here. A couple weeks later, of course, we had Superfly, right? That was 2 out of 3 fights. Looked really, appetizing on the undercard or on the card itself. Rungvisai, crazy knockout. That Quatros Estrada was another solid fight mixed in there. And then, Canelo versus Golovkin, a fight that people have been talking about for a good 2 years now. And it turned out as a great fight. It had everything. It had the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? A pay-per-view fight with really a mediocre undercard, to be real nice. I'm putting it nicely. But the fight lived up to it. The action was solid. Gennady kept pushing the pace. He kept getting, it was kind of it was weird style matchups that kind of, and I talked about this a bunch during the year. I thought the same thing with Kovalev Ward and Danny Jacobs Golovkin, how usually the come forward guy, sometimes his face is his jab, and he'll take 3 to land 1 big shot. He'll work the body. A lot of times when a come forward fighter is coming forward, they go to the body, and people say, "Oh, they didn't give him enough body. They didn't give him any credit for the body shots," which is very true a lot of times. I'm not like ripping it; it's very true. But also, just to stay with the stereotypical styles, the guy on the outside is usually landing the better jab and the pot shots, right? You got harder shots, you got cleaner shots. And it was just totally reversal. You had Golovkin and Ward, or I should say, well, even Canelo, right? Even Canelo, but especially Ward and Jacobs going to the body on the outside, right? At times. And obviously Ward was mixing it up inside and outside, and so was Jacobs as the fight went on, but not as much. But he wasn't like running, he was more moving. Whereas if you're going to call running something, Canelo was on the move a lot more. Although, once again, Jacobs and Canelo landing those body shots in Ward, like I mentioned. But yet the come-forward fighter, Kovalev, Golovkin, had the better jab. It was really you don't normally see that. And it was really cool because you have one, I would say majority. And obviously when you say majority, it has to be over 50%. So it could be 60%, it could be 70%, it could be 52%. I don't know. I'm just saying I think the majority of boxing fans like a come-forward fighter, like the aggressor. They're going to Harold let him in the situation. He's got to stop moving. If he moves one more, I'm just going to give him a 9 no matter who landed the punches. You know what I mean? Harold Letterman likes the aggressiveness. You know, that's what he always says, right? But it's funny, and people that like the outside was like, well, he wasn't landing clean. That jab, you know, the jab it's just a jab. A lot of people on the other side said, well, it's just a jab. Well, there's talking about Kovalev and Golovkin's jab and really highlighting it. Obviously, that was the best thing that both of them did in these fights this year. Kovalev was a little different in the first fight, but that's the best thing, especially Golovkin. That's the best thing he did in both fights he had this year, is jab, right? So people were talking about, oh, and they are power jabs. Don't get me wrong. It's just fun to see, like all of a sudden the body shots weren't hurting the guy then, even though the outside guy was landing them, that type of thing. You know what I mean? It was really fun to kind of have a balancing act of that. October, late September, October tends to be a little mild. We obviously had a great fight with Trout and Hurd. Big knockout, that triple header, big knockout by Charlo over the inexperienced, but yet looked like he had the goods, Erickson Lubin. We'll see if he can bounce back and climb back up that ladder. In November, it's kind of a weird end to the year because usually in November, December, maybe not too deep in December, but usually November, it closes really strong. Now, we thought we had Wilder Ortiz. That fell through. And then Lomachenko-Rigo in December. That was a high-profile matchup. It was one-sided. Didn't turn out the way we wanted it. Now, in years past, I think it would have left a big stain on the year. Like, man, that sucks, dude. But that wasn't the case this year. Still sucks that Ortiz didn't fight, although it looks like they're going to do a rematch. But a solid end to the year, not awesome, though, right? Daniel Jacobs stayed busy. A lot of stay-busy fights, getting fights in there. We had a bunch of upsets, though, didn't we? In December, Saddam Ali and Truax over DeGale, hometown kid. And then obviously Billy Joe Saunders. He put on a wicked display of talent and boxing ability, and Lemieux still making excuses. Now we do in a couple of days here. We still have, I guess you could say, like the Japanese New Year boxing celebration, and big shouts out to Canada. A lot of people don't know this, but yesterday was the day after Christmas is Boxing Day in Canada, which is just dope. How many countries have a Boxing Day? I think it's just funny. Anyway, so they do have some hot champions too. Pause. Some really good champions that they have fighting too. Inoue on New Year's, who, by the way, just a real quick news item. He actually looks like he's going up to 118 after this defense. And then Milan Malindo, who's another guy that you could probably look at as a fighter of the year type year. He's fighting as well on that card, but we are all basically done for the year. And now I want to talk a little bit of themes, right? There were a lot more unification fights. Yes, we did get an undisputed fight, right, at 140, but there was a lot of unification fights. Considering you had Thurman Garcia, you had Badu Jack and DeGale, you had Burnett and what the hell was his name? We had a lot of them, is what I'm trying to say, right? And it's just something that you can really build upon. You really can. Obviously, the top-ranked ESPN outlet, right? And overall, we got more outlets. I'm talking worldwide, too. I mean, obviously, I talked about Frank Warren and the BT Sports thing. That's a nice move overseas, right? You even have Schaefer and Hay actually have a little TV deal for their prospects and whatnot, too, over just to keep going on the UK side anyway. So Box Nation, Warren definitely stepped up their game this year. Let's see, hope that, goes on. But, yeah, to get another big outlet with ESPN that actually looks like, for like 5 months out of the year, it'll be one a month. I don't think they'll do it in January, but it'll be like one a month. But then the rest of the year, I think it's about 7 months of the year, there'll be two a month. So that's a good look, man. That's a really good look. So that was nice to keep adding that. And then we also had some promoters and some people just inside the business. You saw some working, a little bit more working together, whether it's Golden Boy, Top Rank, K2, Heyman Fighters working with any of those, or working, to get an HBO fight. Felix Diaz, Daniel Jacobs, obviously Chavez Jr. as well, working out there. So you started to see a little mix-up that way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and, hit that over the head like, oh, my gosh, man, we had such great fights because they all worked together. No, I'm not. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. You know what I mean? I'm not talking like that, but you started to see it a little bit. And even here at the end of the year, Bob Arum now, much like Espinoza at Showtime, said, well, he said some things, negative and positive over the years, to the media, but then sometimes it's gone backwards when you're actually talking business. But I did like the idea of Bob Arum and Heyman swapping guys. CBS, Showtime, ESPN, ABC, hey, we want this fight to happen there. We can pay more for this fight to happen there. You give us this fight, we'll give you that fight. Now, we'll actually see how it plays out. I'm not holding my breath, because if I did, I'd pass out pretty quick. But it's something positive, I guess you could say. Like I mentioned, there was a ton of 50-50 on paper, or 55-45, 60-40. Anything 60-40 and down in boxing's awesome. If you look at the last decade, there's been so many maybe good stylistically fights, but you know who's going to win. And sometimes not good stylistic fights, and you just know who's going to win. Or sometimes, well, we got to make this fight because these are the two biggest names, but you know it's going to sell, but the fight won't live up to it. I think we had a ton more 50-50, 60-40 fights. And it kind of harkened back to 2015. See, a lot of people get pissed off at 2015 because the Manny Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather fight didn't turn out as two-way as they wanted it, right? And also the fact that Cotto or Canelo didn't fight Golovkin. At the end of the year, a lot of people were pissed. And that Lemieux-Golovkin fight wasn't a two-way fight, wasn't a burner. I really liked the Canelo Cotto fight. I thought it was a solid fight. A lot of people went into that thinking it was going to be a war. But how many wars have Canelo been in? But anyway, there was a ton of 50-50, 55-40, 60-40 fights in 2015. I thought that got overlooked. I really did. Some of it was because the schedule was just too jam-packed throughout the week. Having a jam-packed Saturday is different than having a jam-packed week. And I think there were some stumbles there, as we've mentioned. 2016, there was still lingering of the old guard. Whereas in 2017, not to say the old guard, I mean, shit, Mayweather fought, Pacquiao fought, Cotto fought twice, you know what I mean? It was still there, but you started to see the youth serving the old, right? Youth is served. Like, they started to take over more and make names for themselves, the Charlo brothers, right? We started to see people, I mean, Golovkin had his best year, and he had a draw and a split decision, or was it a majority decision? It's like kind of crazy, He had his best year, though, financially. And all that stuff he did before was very important, and it built him up, especially butts in the seats. It built him up to this. But no matter what happens, now he is a pay-per-view guy. I'm really looking forward to seeing a Golovkin fight without Canelo at some point and seeing what his numbers will be for that effect. But yeah, a lot of the youth serving, right, to the old. The old lions either getting beat or just going away. Bradley, Marquez, Klitschko, a lot of them were lingering. Was I going to fight? Am I going to fight? I don't know, that type of thing. So that was definitely a theme that we really wanted in 2016, but we didn't get enough of, right? We didn't get enough of. Now, we still have an activity issue, right? We do. We definitely do. And I know a lot of people just want to focus on Haymon fighters, and trust me, there's plenty of fighters within his vast amount of fighters, right? That should be more busy. Now, some of it's their own decision, some of it's been injury, whatever. But either way, clearly, Haymon guys, some of them really need to get busy. The ones that want to fight 2-3 times a year. But overall, I think that's an issue still that we got to get better at, but we got to be fair about everything too. If a guy fights twice a year, you can't just dog him for a decent opponent. Or, I'll use the example of Deontay Wilder, and I actually have, like, the beginning of the year when I heard that opponent for his February date, we ripped him. Bum of the Month Club, like, we got after him. It's funny because that dude tested positive for PEDs, but Gerald Washington was like, hey, now I like this fight. That's okay. That'll be fine. You know what I mean? It was kind of funny how that worked. But I think Wilder's a perfect example because if you look at like January 2015 to January 2016, he fought 4 times active. And in the fights, like that first the fight Stavern, nobody, that was a test for him. A lot of people didn't even think he could go the full rounds, you know what I mean? Or he'd get stopped or whatever. He passed that, test of flying colors. Then we did rip him for the Molina fight. I think that was like early summer, maybe June or July, something. We ripped him, but you know what? When you actually saw the fight in the ring, it was entertaining. Same with Duhaupas, or I can't remember who he fought, but he fought in the fall that year, stayed busy. That was a good heavyweight fight, but he was getting ripped because a lot of people didn't know this guy. Then he fought Spilka, that was a good fight. I'm not saying action-packed, oh my God, it was a brawl. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, it was still a competitive fight. Spilka was right there in the fight, and it ended in a highlight knockout. So to me, I started to say, okay, wait a second. Because you got to take every fighter has a different path and different levels. And for me, when I saw him against Molina, then Duhaupas, and then Spilka, I saw him struggling at times in there. So his ceiling, how high is it? We're gonna find out hopefully more in 2018. If he's gonna hit his head on it, or if he's gonna break right through it. But I guess my point is, if people are gonna fight 3 times a year, you're not gonna have great fights, all 3 of them. And even 2 times a year, if they could give us a good style fight to lead to another one, okay, I'm with you. But sometimes just staying active. Some guys get away with remaining active against guys they're going to beat just to stay active, and some guys don't. Some guys don't, and we know usually how it sways. But I think us as fans have to accept some. It's not going to turn overnight. We're not just going to have guys fighting 3-4. All these guys fighting 3-4 times a year. We got a lot more options, a lot more outlets, but still, there is a limit. Just on venue, especially if you're talking bigger fights, just on venue we have limits in this country, right, for boxing. We talked about this a couple times, the stadium fights. Big shots out to the UK and Australia. I mean, to have this many stadium fights in a year is just phenomenal for boxing. You can't really register how important it is when a fight's on to see a stadium fight. And seeing all those people and the illustrious walk-ins, to the ring, and it's just that kind of energy. The 90,000, then an indoor arena later for Anthony Joshua, 78,000, 51,000 in Australia for the Pacquiao fight. Another 28,000 for the Kell Brook fight. So stadium fights were another. Just awesome theme. Couple other themes as far as like Eddie Hearn coming to the U.S., put his flag down here, Matchroom Sports. Zuffa, UFC boxing, that's going to be a thing. I can't say that's a theme this year, but, it happened. It started, the wheels are turning as we speak. Also, I think it was 6 cards they had this year, 5 or 6, the Barclays Center, Brooklyn Barclays, had a great year, and they're continuing to grow that base there in New York City. And it's a great thing. And, we always, talk about the StubHub for the last decade almost. And for good reason, great reason, right? But it's awesome in a big market when you can get a venue that's dedicated to boxing somewhat, right? And beyond Vegas, I'd say the StubHub and the Barclays are the most accessible, open boxing, venues in the country, and it continues to grow. They got something going on Long Island now. They had some issues. It was a bounce back year for New York because remember last September, October, November, December there were supposed to be 2 cards. It hurt Showtime's close to the year, and it hurt New York City. That's not to say the prospect shows still need help, but and the mid-level stuff still needs help because of that insurance scam. And a lot of people say, the healthiest the fighters. Of course, but it's still a scam the way it was implemented through our, 2-system ran by money government, right? So that was a theme, and a great theme. And a lot of people, they sold all year long over 66,000 tickets. They sold, 15 or 16,000? Had the biggest non-Brooklyn net gate, over 2 million. It beat the UFC for Thurman Garcia. So big shouts out to the Barclays. I know a lot of people, because of a handful of media members, I always say they were even saying that with the Thurman Garcia fight, that they fleeced the whole place. So they sold 5,500, right? And the others are just going to be give-outs. They're completely giving away all these tickets. They even tried to do that on that one, even though it did over 2 million at the gate, But it is funny how it's always the Barclays, they're never real tickets, even though, a lot of this comes out of the commission. And you get to see exactly what was comped. You get to see exact attendance, exact money. You get to see some stuff. It's not telling everything. You can pay the tax on the ticket, and that counts as But anyway, big shouts out to Brooklyn, the Barclays Center. They're really helping out the East Coast and in boxing in general. And then one more theme. We're going to start to get to the categories here. One more theme was the busy afternoon nights, a full Saturday. You know, when you have college football, you have on Saturdays, right? You have NFL football the whole day on Sundays. For boxing on Saturdays, you get a cool UK card at about, let's say, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, right? I'm in the middle of the country, so that's Central Time, and maybe Showtime is broadcasting it. Then they do their card, which is like a double or triple header, and sometimes we'd have an HBO card that would start a little bit later, you know, or it would be, you know, a PBC split card. One would be on Fox, one would be on Showtime, and then HBO later, or whatever. You know, hopefully when Showtime, ESPN, and HBO, when they go head-to-head, I really hope that they can tweak it so at least the main events or interesting co-features can be seen, kind of all one stream. Like I said, the Boxing Day. And we had that several times this year, where it's just a full Boxing Day. And that's phenomenal, especially for the people on the West Coast, because you guys still have shit to do after the fights are done. Every time I'm in Cali or in Vegas watching fights, I'm like, it's 10 o'clock, dude. The night's just starting. This is sweet, you know? But I love that. You know, it does suck when they go head-to-head, you know, whether it's HBO or, for years, HBO and Showtime, right? It does suck. Sometimes it's a necessary evil because, like I mentioned, venues and whatnot, we don't have, like, the pick of the litter when it comes to venue and boxing all the time, right? Outside of Vegas, anyway. So that was something that we've seen shades of, but this year really hit home on that. You know, that Boxing Days. The whole freaking day, you know. That's pretty cool. That's something that, you know, we're not used to as boxing fans. Actually, you know what? I was just about to go to CT, too. Maybe he'll just pop off real quick. I'm going to see. Let's see here. So hopefully I didn't go too long so CT can't get his thing in there. But we'll just kind of start, and hopefully he'll call back. He's probably just, you know, having to handle a little business or something. But we'll start, like I said, the 2017 Boxing Year in Review award show, I guess, right? The great, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as I said at the top of the show, the ugly part is plentiful. We had great, good, we got all this stuff, right? But obviously, we have plenty within this category. Great and ugly is just, it's all about it. It's all about it. So let's see here. Okay, cool. Let's start with Prospect of the Year. And pardon me, because I actually am texting somebody back. So I apologize. But anyway, and it's not just some random girl or something, guys, just so you know. I wouldn't do that to you guys. Well, actually, I probably would if it had something to do with tonight after the show. I mean, shit, that's a little different. But anyway, Prospect of the Year. And actually, I was talking to Luke just last night or the night before, I think it was last night, about this category. And normally people disagree on how I do my Prospect of the Year. And I totally understand it. I accept it. I totally get it. 100%. But that's just me. That's just how everyone has their own opinion. You know what I mean? Everyone has their own opinion on stuff. But my thing is about the Prospects of the Year are usually 10 fights and down, right? Maybe 13, 14 fights and down. And a lot of times it's just like who's scoring the highlight reel knockouts or who looks the slickest or whatever. Right? And I understand it's for young fighters. prospect level fighters. It says it right there. So I understand, Ryan Garcia, right? What is he, 13-0, 12 KOs from Golden Boy? I get it. You know what I mean? At least he actually did have like what was seen as a step-up fight this year. You know what I mean? I guess that's my problem. Like, if we're 10 or 13 fights in and you haven't been challenged, it's cool. That's part of development. I just got done saying not too long ago that everybody is moved differently, right? And you pass a test. Maybe they need to move you laterally after a shaky outing. You want to have a little adversity. You want to go rounds because you want to get tired in the fight, and you want to break through and get your second win and all that type of stuff, right? But to me, to just give it to the flashiest guy or the biggest puncher when they're fighting guys that they're never going to lose to me that really doesn't mean much. Because how many guys, and the reason why I started kind of maybe over the last, 10 years or so, the reason why I kind of changed my mentality on that is because for years you see all these hot prospects come up and we don't really know about them until they're tested. Now, some guys we know about because it's just evident. But you can even make the case for Terrence Crawford. After his first step-up HBO fight and when he started to get belts and everything, there was a lot of times he was actually getting hit early in fights. Now, he'd adjust and knock dude out, right? But even like Lundy and like guys that maybe shouldn't be hitting them too early were, right? Now that's not really the case anymore. And I guess just my point, even a guy like Crawford, who you could easily say, there's not a big argument to say he's not the top pound for pound, right? And I guess I just have a different mentality. So if I went with how a lot of people go, and Lukey brought up another good point too. He said, well, a lot of people are just talking about TV prospects, and which tells him and others, and it was very true, that it's like they just take the safe route because, they just go, that's the hot route, whatever. I haven't seen the undercard stuff, meaning you don't go to live fights or watch undercard streams. Is basically what he's getting at, and it's so true. That's a good point. And a lot of times people sneak up on us. We hadn't heard of him, or we saw him on a ShowBox, but he hadn't fought anybody. Of course, on a ShowBox, you're probably going to get tested somewhat. But so my thing is, if you start at the beginning of the year as a prospect, and then you stepped up to contender, that's prospect of the year. So like I said, Josh Kelly and Ryan Garcia, I think because Kelly actually, I really don't know. That's a tough one. And to me, it's kind of like, it's kind of tied, I'll be honest. If you're going to go on that route, if you're going to go that route where you're just going to pick young guys like this, that's cool. You know what I mean? Because he is, actually, yeah, he didn't really get tested much either. But he looks the part. Ryan Garcia he's got the power, he's got the looks, the guy has a lot of potential. Ton of potential. You know what I mean? But I would favor, in that situation, I guess that's like you say Josh Kelly, okay, that's cool. But for me, I'd probably go Josh Taylor. Because, we don't know where Ohara Davies is going to end up. But on paper, that looked like a good fight. He handled his business. And he also handled his business against Miguel Vasquez. So, a guy like him, I'd actually give it to over those other guys because he's, we've seen him fight somebody. So if you're a prospect at the beginning of the year and then you get tested and you move into contender, I understand, like, David Benavidez is a champ now. I do get that. So he can't be the prospect of the year. I get that. But let's rewind. Did he not he still hasn't fought a tippy top 168 pounder, right? And he's rematching the guy he got the belt from, Gavril. You wouldn't put him in the top 5 heading into that fight. And then he going against Porky, who had Medina, who had such a great fight, against DeGale. And it was supposed to be a rough, hard test for him. So I understand the whole belt thing. Oh, he's got a belt. Ryan Burnett is a guy you couldn't say prospect of the year. But he really, he really separated himself into that. Same with Cal over there. What is he, Yafaya or whatever? Now he's a champ. Well, you can't really do that. I get that. Here's some other names, though. I mentioned Josh Taylor. I think Darwin Price as well in the Heyman staff. The Heyman staff. Yeah, I guess it's a staff. Stable is what I meant to say. Some people saying Marcus Brown. I think he's been a contender now. He had a great year, bounce back year, but K-Rod made him a contender that fight. And that was in 2016. Devin Haney is another guy that looks the part, could win Prospect of the Year, but I need to see him in there with somebody to turn him into a contender. So Regis Prograis stands out as a guy that I think you could still consider being a prospect, in my opinion, because of he doesn't have a quality win yet. So I'd either say Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor, Joshua Greer Jr. had a good year as well. So I'm going to actually say Josh Taylor. That's going to be because he looks the part too. He's only, let me look. He's got, it's only 11 fights, 10 KO, so he's still doing what people like in a prospect, knocking people out, right? But he handled Miguel Vasquez in what looked to be 2 unbeaten prospects, which it was, O'Hara Davies. So I'd probably lean to Josh Taylor. Now, Josh Kelly may end up being better than him. Ryan Garcia may be better than some of these guys I'm mentioning, right? But it's a tough one. There's a lot of them, and that's good. That's good for boxing. That's definitely good for boxing. Let's see here. We're going to go with event of the year, right? Event of the year. Man, did we have a lot of events of the year. Holy crap. I mean, I just went over the stadium fight thing, right? I just went over the damn stadium thing. Clearly, I'd have to say Wembley Stadium is the event of the year. Klitschko, Joshua. Hands down. Now, you had Golovkin Canelo. It did a really big gate. I think it's the 3rd largest gate. They did like 25 to 30 mil or something like that. You have to put Mayweather and McGregor in there. They did like 55 mil. And what was it? What was the final? Was it 4.3? They just announced it. The thing did over 600 million. And if you're really going to be saying what's the event of the year, obviously that's probably the event of the year. But I still go Joshua Klitschko. Now, Joshua against Tankum, 78,000. I mentioned Brooks Spence, another outdoor fight. Pack Horn, got to put that. I think Thurman Garcia gets thrown in there as well because it was a highly anticipated matchup. But, yeah, I'm going Anthony Joshua Klitschko. I mean, the buzz that got stateside here, that was just great, man. Just freaking great. And like I said, it's tough to beat, man. It's the look of it and all that. I mean, I got to say event of the year goes to Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko. Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people. That just doesn't happen much, right? Well, they almost got 2000, was it 14 or 15? I think it was 2014, where they had Frotch and Groves Part 2. That got almost to 80,000, right? I think it was just short of it. So we're going to kind of combo up network and then promoter of the year. Now, you don't have to win both. You don't. It's not a combo. I'm just going to kind of talk about them all at one time. That's what I mean by that. So, I don't know how you can't say Showtime for Network of the Year. ESPN is now beyond the prospect level, mid-level stuff. They're not just dipping their feet into the shallow area. They've now put both feet in. It looks like they're getting balls deep in that water. They're shivering a little bit. They're not in the deep end yet, but it looks like they're headed that way, right? So that's big, but I wouldn't say that they had all these awesome fights on there. You know what I mean? I mean, you look, Pacquiao Horn turned out really good, so you got to give him credit. But how do we know how serious Pacquiao took that fight in training? I don't know. Let's not take it anything from Horn, but on paper, let's not act like. Let's just put it this way: had PBC Al Heyman put this fight together, it would have got dogged even more, and it got dogged. Don't get me wrong, but I never completely trashed it because I understood leading with Pacquiao makes a ton of sense for that ESPN deal. Now, the Lomachenko fight after that, nothing to it. Really, right? The undercard was not that good for that Pacquiao fight either. The Crawford fight, although a big deal on paper, didn't really turn out that much, right? But they did. It's funny because Oscar Valdez fight, that turned out to be a lot better than we thought. That was I still think that's their best card because it's a doubleheader. You had Ramirez and Hart on the undercard. That was their best card, I thought. So, and obviously the undercard sucked for Lomachenko-Rigo, but then again, when you get a main event like that on paper, you can't really dog out the undercard, in my opinion anyway. I'm not going to all of a sudden start ripping ESPN in Top Rank because, that fight didn't turn out entertaining. That's not their fault. Yeah, I would say they have nothing to do with it. Obviously, they have something to do with matching it, but let's be honest. It happens. You know what I mean? HBO, although I thought it had a bounce-back year from a horrendous 2016, it still had too much HBO pay-per-view and not enough quality HBO regular, right? And it was gappy. So between HBO regular, normal HBO, comes with your subscription, Championship Boxing or Boxing After Dark, it was there'd be 2-month gap sometimes. So that they had a bounce-back year, but let's be honest. Now, Sky Sports, they put on some big events, but I think overall they had a good year, but it wasn't crazy. Same with BT Sports. They started this year. Box Nation had a decent year, but it wasn't over the top. Showtime clearly had the best year as a network. I don't really think that's up for debate. Personally, I really don't. So I got Showtime as the network of the year, and then promoter of the year. Now you could look at Lou DiBella for the work he did at the Barclays Center. You could look at Eddie Hearn just in general, right? You could look at him, it seems like, the last couple years. Totally get that. I mentioned Frank Warren, BT Sports. They stepped up their game. I don't think he's promoter of the year, but they stepped up their game. That's more of a network thing, though. But to me, because Al Heyman has multiple promoters, Showtime was the network of the year, but there was a variety of people promoting that stuff. So it wasn't all DiBella. DiBella only had the Barclays, basically. I mean, he had some other shows, don't get me wrong. He had that, when Wilder goes to Tuscaloosa, or usually it's Birmingham, actually. He does those shows, too. He does he did a lot more mid-level in prospect stuff. He tried to get that, Broadway Boxing back. He said he's going to do like 5 of them this year. But I'd have to say Top Rank, because they had a pretty good year. It started out crappy. Like, that's on pay-per-view? What? You know? But I got to give them credit for putting on some pretty good fights, but also because of the power move they made with the ESPN deal. I can't give them Network of the Deal of the Year just because now they're all the way in the pool. I can't do that because you still got to give us quality fights. And like I mentioned, I can't really give it to just DeBella, although I think he's close to it. Probably put on better fights overall, percentage-wise, I'd say. But to me, I'd say Top Rank because they secured that ESPN deal. And they finally got sick of HBO. And credit now, obviously, you know, even a year or two ago, Bob Arum wasn't talking about having this deal. He actually was still on that HBO bandwagon, still trying to rip Showtime. You know what I mean? Still trying to. So I give him a ton of credit, but he had to go there to make money. Let's be honest. It's true. Right? He was like, I'm sick of. So this HBO budget problem from 2015, 2016, having fights that shouldn't be on pay-per-view, right? That's obviously, you know, Top Rank was dealing with that. I mean, that pay-per-view they did in the spring was like, dude, that's garbage. Like, are you kidding me? Those other fights on that card were horrendous. I know there's 3 champions, but they're just gimmies. But anyway, I got to give it to them, though. I'm just being honest that Top Rank kind of, I wouldn't say stumbled into this deal or anything like that, but they, like I said, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they were still like pro HBO like a mother effer, obviously. But it's nice that they finally got to the point where it is funny to kind of hear them rewrite history now. Like, oh, this is what we got to do. We got to be on basic cable. We got to be in homes, you know what I mean? And it's something that we've all been saying for years, you know. But kudos to them. They did secure the deal. It's a 4-year deal. I don't know if it's a guarantee 4-year deal, but I hear it's a 4-year deal. So that's sweet. So we got promoter. We got network. And I'm rebooting my switchboard again. I've been getting it was cool, it was calm, everything is fine. Now I'm getting a couple of texts saying there is a little bit of the issue. And it kind of makes sense because I did see either people drop off or haven't been in yet that already be in by now. Trainer of the year. I think you could name several, obviously, right? If you look at Andre Rozier, just seemed to, win or lose, he seemed to be in and around a lot of fighters. He just like, oh, wow, he's got him too. Oh, I didn't know he had him. You know, like, he really had a breakout year. Derek James with Charlo and Spence and some other prospects coming up, had a great year. Alfredo Caballero, who had, he has Estrada, and he also has, he has Burchelt, too, who had a pretty damn good year. That UK trainer, what is his name? I can't. I didn't write it down. What the heck is his name? He's with Billy Joe Saunders now. He's with Brooke. He's with a variety of guys. I don't know why I can't think of his name. But anyway, he's up there too. I'm going with Derek James. I think that I feel like when a guy like Charlo, talking Jermell, when he hasn't really shown power, and then he gets with you and he starts knocking people out, not just going, balls to the wall, you know what I mean? Not that way, but just literally just landing that perfect shot. Being patient still, though. You know what I mean? I think I'd say he got it. I would give it to him. I'll go with Derek James. So I see a couple people being able to get back in the on the line, on the caller's line. I see CT on there as well. So I'm going to hold off on upset of the year, comeback fighter, KO, fight of the year, fighter, fight and fighter of the year, robbery of the year, and all that. I'm gonna hold off on that. I got through one of these. I do want to jump in and kind of catch up with CT, so we're gonna do that right now. CT, what's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Chris. How are you?
Good, man. Did you have a good holiday season? Or,
yeah, it's pretty
we're
good.
still
How's
in
yours?
it, actually, but Christmas. It was good, man. I mean, beyond the cold, it was good.
Yeah, it's freezing.
Yeah, that shit was nuts. It's pretty cold
That's
on the
good.
east, isn't it? Is it still kind of cold on the
it's
east?
freezing. Yeah, it's about probably 20 right now.
Man, what I'd do for 20. Huh. What
I
I'd
think
do
I
for
saw
20.
yours is like what, 8? Or is it?
Right now, let me look, actually. Right now, it's 2 degrees.
Oh, shit.
You know what's funny, though? It's actually going to get warmer as the night goes on. It's really weird. It's actually a decent day tomorrow, but yeah, man, I think it was 18 below in the middle of the night. I was about 3 hours north of Minneapolis, so I was getting not right next to Canada, but within earshot, I guess, like getting up there, And it was cold, dude. It was rough. But anyway, I kind of opened up the show, just kind of going month by month in a sense. You know what I mean? I kind of just talked about themes, how we had a lot more unifications. We had a lot of 50-50, 60-40 fights, the stadium fights, the boxing afternoon. Today's like a full boxing day. We saw that more on Saturdays than we had in the past. So I kind of went over the themes and started getting into this category. Just give us your overview in a nutshell of 2017, and then we'll get you started on some of these prospects and all the award stuff.
Well, I thought 2017 was really good for boxing. Had a ton of great fights, very anticipated fights, very good matchups, competitive fights. Just all in all, I just love this whole year of boxing. Best years I've seen in quite a while. So, I'm also glad that everything's, coming into play where we're getting the best fighting the best now. You know what I mean? And it's just looking real good for boxing. And then next year it's going to carry on. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it topped just because there was more of it 2013. 2013 was a great year, but I believe it topped that year, but it was a phenomenal year in a variety of ways, no doubt about it. So as far as prospect of the year, I'm just going to name off several names. You got a guy like Ryan Garcia for Golden Boy knocking dudes out. You got a guy like Regis Prograis, Devin Haney, Josh Taylor, a guy from the UK. I guess you could, Clarissa Shields became a champion this year, so that's a little different. Darwin Price was actually another guy that a lot of people talked about. We had Josh Taylor, who's a little bit more advanced which one is it? It's one of we have Josh Kelly, who's actually only like 5 fights in, but looks the part already. And then we have Josh Taylor, who beat that O'Hara Davis and beat Miguel Vasquez very easily, I would say. Who do you think stood out? Prograis, Ryan Garcia. Who do you think stood out for your prospect of the year this year, man?
I'll probably since I don't know too much about the other guys that you mentioned, I'll probably have to go with Prograis. Because I know he's in line to fight Postol next. And, he's climbing up the ladder and he's being pretty successful. So I'll say probably him. He's probably reaching to the highest plateau as far as into contendership because he's going in from, prospect to title eliminator. Or is that a title fight? No, I think that's a title fight.
It's
right?
I can't. I think it's like a full title fight thing because Imam and Ramirez are fighting.
Oh, okay.
For a title eliminator, I believe. And then I think these two fight, and then those are in theory, those would meet to do that. Actually, I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm going to look real quick while you're talking. So yeah, I think that's a good because he's right on that cusp, man. He hasn't had that big win that turns him into a full-fledged contender yet. You are right about that. That's for sure. Actually, let me check real quick. I got the schedule open, and that is, I think it's in February when he fights. Or no, March. I'm looking for, where you at? Where the hell you at? There we go. Yeah, so March 17th in New York at the theater, MSG Theater, Jose Ramirez versus Amir Khan, 12 rounds will be for a vacant WBO championship.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So maybe under that reference point that it makes them, because they were given that, it makes this a title eliminator, the one we're talking about. And then I don't remember how that worked. Because that would be, and for some reason I thought that was in the WBA. Maybe they just took that fight and said, we're going to the WBO with it. Thanks, though.
Yeah,
because I thought
WBA
that they were going
too.
to kind of create one at that, at that. I couldn't remember, but anyway, you're right. He's coming right there, and a lot of people like him. He's got some slickness to him. He's got some skill, but he's got a whole lot of power too. And he's got that Louisiana in his blood, too,
Yeah. It kind of reminds me somewhat of a young James Kirkland, when he first came out. Just his stance, the way he's relentless, and that pressure he gives, and the power. Like you said, but he has some slickness to him where he ducks and slips and dodges punches while countering. So, he's one to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to that fight with him and Postol.
Yeah, and what it looks like, I think Postol's being the veteran and holding off on signing it until he gets in shape all the way.
Okay, yeah.
I think he's getting in shape right now. And he's like, I'll sign it. I'm ready. Let's go. When are we going to do it? That's what I think it is. It's just smart. I mean, if he's going to fight him, who cares? As long as it's first quarter, that works. That's what it seems like, because there hasn't because Prograis supposedly signed his side. So they're just waiting. They're just waiting for Postol. So that could be what Victor Postol's doing. And that's smart,
Mm-hmm.
So we got a couple other categories before we get to the big one. We got Network of the Year, which I think is Showtime. But, obviously there's other ones out there too. And it's kind of a combo deal in a sense, because we also have Promoter of the Year, whether it be Top Rank. I gave it to Top Rank because they secured the ESPN deal. And because Showtime, with Al, he's got DiBella, but he's got Schaefer, he's got a variety of guys. So I don't know if I could just give it to DiBella based off the 6 events at the Barclays, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a tough. Eddie Hearn, you can always kind of give it to in a sense because he has so many big events, I gave it to him last year. I think the last 2 years I've given it to him. But I gave it to Top Rank only because they secured that ESPN deal, and I gave Network of the Year Showtime. What are your thoughts on Promoter Network of the Year?
Yeah, I'll probably Network of the Year Showtime, definitely, and Promoter of the Year, I haven't really gave that a thought yet.
Yeah. It's kind of a vague one sometimes, and it's kind of like I said, you could give it to Eddie Hearn because the guy has so many big events, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about Top Rank securing that ESPN deal that's pretty huge, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll probably say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, probably Top Rank, because that's it's very important for the fans, and then securing the ESPN deal. That way, we can all watch fights, on ESPN again. So, and it was the big fight they made this year. So I really like that.
Yeah, I agree. So as far as like knockout of the year, you have your Deontay Wilder, you have your Mikey Garcia, you have your David Lemieux. You can pick which Charlo, which one you want off that. Especially Jermell Charlo. Jermell, whichever one you like, go ahead and pick it. Hugo Centeno knocked out Aleem. That was a hell of a shot. A dude named Tay from this happened in the UK. That was that one shot, first punch it was like a handful of months ago. One punch, the dude was out. That was kind of funny. That Benavidez knockout of Porky Medina, where he threw like 8 punches and knocked him out. Rungvisai knocking Gonzalez out. That was a huge one. Raymond Beltran, he freaking scored a knockout on HBO. That dude was kind of outboxing at the start.
The Peruvian guy.
Yep, Peruvian. Yep, and then Collazo. This was way early in the year. I kind of forgot about this, but Luis Collazo over Sammy Vasquez. That was pretty brutal. And Dorticos knocked out that Russian Hammer dude or whatever. That was one where he's just looking at you. He's just sitting there stuck to the canvas. That was another one too. Joshua Greer Jr., who I mentioned in the prospect, he had a big. I think it was like one of those two last names, something Smith. He had another knockout. I think that was on either FS1 or on Showbox. But what stood out for you out of all those?
I was gonna say Rungvisai over Gonzalez, but I would definitely have to go with Lemieux knocking out Stevens. Like that was he clocked him cold. Like, and he was just laid out for like a good 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah, he was out.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was a really hard shot, and it was like one of those knockouts that stays in your mind throughout the whole year. It's almost like when Jones got knocked out by Johnson. And the way he just stood there on the mat, like what Stevens looked like. So I'd have to go with Lemieux knocking off Stevens.
Yeah, man, that was, and it was the third round or something like that. It didn't last long, but it was a good fight. Like it kind of started out quick, kind of how I guess I didn't think it'd be that quick, but it was nice how the action was intense, and then I think somebody said it the other day. Maybe it was a YouTube channel, but he didn't have a chance. I think it was Wingy, the dude from the UK, Wingy. Big shouts out to Wingy. He, by the way, Wingy has a podcast now. Make sure you guys check that out. But he said he didn't even give the woo, where he did that after Golovkin, that little woof, when he's like, shit, he didn't even have time to do that because he was out. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one, no doubt about it. Trainer of the year can be really quick. I have 3: Derek James, Andre Rozier, and Alfredo Caballero, who trains Burchelt and Estrada. I picked Derek James for Trainer of the Year because of the power that he added with Charlo, and because of Spence, almost bringing him up from a ways back and stuff. So he's just a hot guy on the way up. But Rozier just kept, it seemed like a couple times a month, he'd just be in the corner, win, lose, or draw. I'd be like, oh, he's back, man. Yeah, he's there, Kind of like Garcia, where they're just there constantly. And so he had a big year, too. What are your thoughts there? I mean, maybe you haven't thought about that much either, because that's kind of a secondary one.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know as soon as I saw, like you said, he's developing Charlo and having him spar with Errol Spence, having those two guys spar with each other during sessions. As they compete against other competition, I got to go with him as well because he made Spence a champion and, and enhanced Charlo's power as a fighter. And it shows, especially what he did to Ruben.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a
and
good call.
he's still patient, but he's just more like, he's more of a counter-puncher now, whereas before he just tried to outbox people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like he's getting a lot more leverage.
Yeah, sitting down on his punches, but not being dumb about it.
Right.
So. And, I mean, by the end of next year and into the 2019, if you're sitting there with the best two guys at weight classes, welterweight and 154, potentially, I'm not just handing over the stuff to him, but there's potential for that. Am I wrong? You know what I mean? There is some potential for that. Charlo could be the best 154. I don't know how he'd do against Lara and Hurd, but he could be, right? So, and Spence definitely could be. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So I mean, that would be pretty, to have the top two dudes. That'd be pretty. That'd be pretty impressive. Go ahead with the Rozier though.
Oh yeah, sorry to cut you off. But Rozier is definitely close with he's Saddam Ali's trainer, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and who else did he train this year?
Well, Danny Jacobs. Well, he was moving that little Tyson along until he got arrested.
Okay,
it was also oh man, I can't remember. I think he pulled another minor upset.
That's what I'm thinking too, but I just can't remember.
Yeah, I can't think of who. Yeah, I can't think of who that was. But it just seemed like a couple times a month he'd be in the corner, like, oh, it's him again. Wow, Maybe Devianchenko or whatever, that guy. He had some good fights this year too.
Yeah.
Derachenko or whatever. I think he's too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the guy from Showbox, but he's getting into contender level. He knocked out
exactly.
Was it Solomon?
I think so.
He knocked out, was it Solomon this year or last year? I forgot, but I just remember him clocking somebody earlier this year.
Definitely. So we got Fighter of the Year and Fight of the Year. Okay? So we'll go Fight of the Year.
Fight of the Year.
Fight of the Year. So you got Klitschko AJ, Klitschko
right.
Anthony Joshua. You got that first fight rung beside Gonzalez. You got Jack DeGale. You got Canelo Golovkin, Spence Brook. Even Ramirez and Hart was a pretty damn good fight. Aleem and Kitrov. This is way back when in January on that undercard. That was a good ass fight. Hurd Harrison, Hurd Trout. Hurd Trout was another one. Broner Granados. Oscar Valdez actually in both of his fights, that Mariaga in that Cervante or whatever that guy's name, that was a hell of a fight. You also had, a lot of people are talking about Miguel Roman because he beat Salido a couple weeks back, but I thought the Mira in Roman fight from earlier this year was even a better fight. Mira and Roman, that was a good fight. Roman came up short, but what stands out as your fight of the year, man?
I'll probably have to go Joshua Klitschko, only because the amount of action that was in that fight, and you were always just glued to the television, just waiting. You knew something was going to happen. Either it was all overall action. They showed technique. Both guys hit the canvas, and you just saw different chapters throughout the fight. You saw Joshua winning the first couple of rounds, and you saw Klitschko coming back the next few rounds during the middle rounds, and then you saw Joshua taking over at the end. And it was very exciting for the fans the way he won the fight, and a good account from Klitschko. So I think that stands out because I don't know, people were talking about it for weeks after, Same thing to Canelo and Triple G, but that ended in controversy. But this fight ended in a knockout and is action packed. So I have to go with Joshua and Klitschko.
Yeah, and then there's just that other level of being heavyweights doing that too. It just, I think it just brings something out of us. Like, oh shit, man, it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody was anticipating that fight for Joshua. Facing someone like Klitschko.
Exactly. And it lived up to it, and then obviously that plays into the event of the year too, because 90,000 Wembley, that shit was all over ESPN. That blew up, it sent the whole thing throughout the whole, world, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, wow, dude,
yeah.
that was, that was big, man. Especially for heavyweight title fights. There's been several good heavyweight fights over the years, but not for a championship, So,
right.
That's a little different. So it's Fighter of the Year. Now, to me, Fighter of the Year, this year's tough. I think it's really tough because you could go Terrence Crawford because of what he did at 140, right? The undisputed thing. Now, some people will say, well, the competition level, Felix Diaz, quality guy, he shit on him, right? That wasn't even a fight. And then obviously Indongo, body shot third round, it's a wrap. That wasn't even a good, you know what I mean? So I guess some people say, well, he doesn't have a marquee name there. So that's what's holding him back, right? Then you have Lomachenko, who in both Crawford and Lomachenko separated themselves from their opponents clearly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could look at the other guys up there, like Joshua, Badu Jack. You can look at some other guys, but they didn't necessarily separate themselves as much as Loma and Crawford did as far as the actual fight. Mikey Garcia as well had a great year. As far as one quality win, but they only fought once, Andre Ward, obviously, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. Leo Santa Cruz had a great year, but he only fought twice, and the second guy was a stay busy fight. There was also this Milan Malindo at the lower weight classes who had a pretty good year. So what are your thoughts, man? Crawford, Loma, Garcia, Badu Jack, Anthony Joshua, or maybe that one Andre Ward doing the knockout. Maybe that was good enough for you. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it's only one fight, but did anybody think he'd be knocking Kovalev out? I know I didn't. What are your thoughts, man? Because I think this one's tough for me.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I would maybe have to lean towards Crawford just because, like you said, his accomplishments, like what he did and what he achieved as being undisputed champion. I know the level of competition like Diaz and I forgot the guy's name. What was the guy from South Africa? Indongo. Yeah. Yep. I think just based on what he achieved, like being undisputed, and both guys. Diaz wasn't undefeated, was he? Was Diaz undefeated?
He did have one loss, however.
One loss, okay, yeah.
It was against Lamont. So we're like, all right, well, that's legit.
Right. Yeah, I'll probably have to go with Crawford, though. I mean, he fought not the top elite level probably in that, of boxing, but just his overall what he accomplished. And then he's going to go up to welterweight and try to take on that division. So probably go with him with definitely a close Lomachenko second. I know Mariaga isn't that, isn't really that big of a credible opponent, but he gave Valdez a tough fight. And Lomachenko made him look something way, way below his level. And then what he did to Rigondeaux. I know it's a guy who's coming up 2 weight classes, but we also got to say where Rigondeaux's where he was based on as from a lot of fight fans, giving him a shot, and just overall who he is as a fighter. Lomachenko beat him too, so I think Lomachenko is a close second. But I have to go with Crawford.
Yeah, this one was a close one, man. I mean, it was. It's kind of it's kind of weird. It's tough because you can break it down on so many different levels to some of these, and like I said, though, the one wins are actually better than any win that both those guys got, I think. But they only fought once, so it's like, oh shit, I don't know. I mean, it's tough, man. It's definitely tough. Is there any other thing you wanna share, or talk about, or anything, man?
No, that's about it. I'm just looking forward to 2018, hoping that some of these fights develop, especially at 154. Maybe they can sort out, all these champions that want to fight each other also at welterweight. And I want to see the 140-pound division. Since Crawford's going up, I want to see who's going to take over that division. Also, I'm watching for Mikey Garcia this coming year. He seems to be one of those fighters that he's going to try to go up to different weight classes, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does this next year. Also, Spence, Joshua. I hope to God that Joshua and Wilder get put on for next year. And I'm also looking for the rematch between Triple G and Canelo.
Yeah, me too, man. I really hope they can get that Wilder Joshua. Obviously, Wilder, it sounds like he's going to have to get by Ortiz,
and that's not an easy fight for him.
No way. Not even close, right? And now he got a little bit more time to prepare too, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess you could say both of them because neither of them took any damage in their last fight. That's for sure. Wilder probably took enough damage from the ref trying to break him up. That's probably where he got his damage.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? That was hilarious, dude. That was a handful, man. I felt like, wow, dude, he should get extra pay for that. Because that was a handful. Yeah, McCanty was all up in there, dude.
He's been like that for years. You remember when he almost got hit with a left hook by Holyfield and when he fought Lewis?
I think Badu hit him this year. Pretty sure Badu Jack hit him this year. Early in the year, and he's all kidding and shit, like, what the hell, dude, I love him. He's a funny dude, man. He's a funny guy. He's good shit.
He's one of my favorite referees to watch. He's definitely involved in a fight, and it seems like the fighters respect him,
Exactly. And even the way he addresses him, or if he's mad at him, he'll address him in a different way. And, I like that. He's hands-on without being hands-on, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? He's not all up in your business. He's not going to sit there and, make it like, all right, dude, who are you trying to get on or what's going on, So, I like him. He's just strictly business,
Him and Jack Reese. I like him and Jack Reese as referees.
Jack Reese. Yep, good call. And you know what? Maybe it was Jack Reese that got hit. Now that you said that.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe Badu Jack. Maybe that was it. Yeah, I don't know. But either way, so next week, that'll be the time where we take the break. Just a heads up.
Okay.
So no show next week, and then we'll be back the following week. So that'll be January 10th. And Clarissa Shields actually has a fight on Showbox that week. And you remember that chick, that other female fighter, Hammer or whatever? Kind of a good-looking chick. And maybe I shouldn't be saying chick like, they could punch me in the face. So maybe that's not how the female fighter, she's going to be on the undercard, and they're looking to build that for this year. So Hammer's going to be on Shields' undercard. So that's kind of cool. They're looking to try to put that together. So that'd be pretty dope if it could get on an undercard of a big show or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that way they can have the build-up and everybody can get a glimpse at her opponent.
Exactly. All right, buddy, you have yourself a good New Year's. Be safe, but have fun.
Thank you. You too. Happy New Year.
Yes, sir. All right, Happy New Year. All right, we got 10 minutes left of the live stream. We'll be going a little bit deeper. I think Carcino's about to call in. Mark 310 is about to call in. Of course, still have Portland on the line. And a variety of people in there, but not a lot of people hitting one, which is A-okay with me. If you don't want to talk, that's cool. You're just chilling. Maybe you're on the West Coast, grocery shopping or holiday shopping, right? You got to get the wrong sizes. You got to take some stuff back. You're just busy, right? You're still busy. Take us with you. 646-381-4990. That is the number to call because the live stream is coming to a close. So we got about 9 minutes left. I wonder if Carcino is just on a live stream or he fell asleep or something. Because he was definitely calling in tonight. I know that. So I'm going to have to give him another reminder real quick. Of course, we could always, we could probably just bring him in if worse comes to worse on my phone. Usually that works pretty good too. So there's always that. I'm just going to basically kind of pick up where I left off, and we'll just keep this thing going. Let me make sure that everything, looks like the switchboard's cool. And now if you guys do press 1, it's not going to knock you off. Every once in a while, maybe twice a year or something, you run into that where it's like, oh, by the way, you're going to get knocked off. Too bad. You pressed 1, but that's how it goes. Let's see here. So I'm just making sure that I got it all figured out. All right, we should be good to go. Starting to see a couple people jumping in. 646-381-4990 is the number to call. I think I was on Upset. Upset of the year, that's where I think I left off. Of course, I think you got to add Tony Bellew into that. Who the hell really thought Bellew was going to win that fight? Not many people. Now, of course, injury played a part, but hey, didn't injury play a part in the Cotto fight too? A little different, though, because he could still keep going, whereas obviously Hay tried to keep going, but it was going to be a rough slaying, let's put it that way, because of his, Achilles. And then he just tore his shoulder out the frame when he was, what was he? Oh, yeah, he's training. And actually, someone compiled a list online of all the biggest odds, basically. And so you have Caleb Truex, you have Saddam Ali, you have Rung Vasai, and you have Tony Bellew. So Caleb Truex was like a 40 to 50 to 1. Now, I forgot about this one. That I think it's NU, beat Miguel Flores. He was a 21 underdog. That one snuck up on me. I was like, oh, that's right. Zhu Shiming went down. Another one that I kind of forgot. He was a 16 to 1. As I mentioned, Rung Vasai, he was a 15 to 1. Gamboa got beat by Castellanos. He was 11 to 1, 12 to 1. Saddam Ali right around that 10 to 14 range. And then it falls off. Rene Alvarado came up with an 8 to 1. That was a pretty good look. As an upset over Shabakov. That happened recently. And technically Emmanuel Alim beating Kitrov. He was almost a 6 to 1. I didn't realize that. This one happened just recently. Jamal James from Minnesota. Diego Chavez, he was a 5 to 1. Jeff Horn, obviously a 5 to 1 as well. So we had a lot of upsets this year, and I actually see some peeps jumping in here. I'm just going to go on whoever got in a row. So I'm going to go Carcino, then I'm going to go 310 Mark as well. Carcino, man, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing pretty good. I'm just down here in Florida.
Well, then you got to be doing pretty good, man. You picked a good time to get the hell out of the Midwest, man. Whew. Whew.
I'm like, I'm complaining about a breeze coming through the window,
yeah, right.
I'm like, it's cold in this room.
I got to put some socks on. What the hell is all this about?
Yeah.
All right.
Did you guys start early today?
No, normal time, 8 o'clock Central. You just, maybe that East Coast is throwing you off? No, that wouldn't make sense. I don't know. Yeah, no, we didn't.
Yeah, it probably would, because here it's about almost 10 o'clock. I know. I'm like, what time is it there?
Right. Yeah, no. So we can kind of breeze through some prospect of the year, upset of the year, that type of thing. I really don't know, what categories you want to hit up, but the prospect of the year, a lot of people saying Ryan Garcia because the power punching from Golden Boy. Some people saying Josh Taylor. There's also a Josh Kelly from overseas. You have Devin Haney. You have Regis Prograis. You have a guy like Darwin Price from the Heyman and Joshua Greer Jr., who had good years as well. Some people are trying to say Marcus Brown, but I think he already faced a contending fight in 2016, that K-Rod, who many people thought he lost to. So I wasn't sure about that. Who stood out for you for prospect of the year, Carcino?
Well, it's only because some of those guys' fights I didn't get a chance to see. I'll say Regis Prograis because I actually got to see a lot of Regis. And watching him coming up, and plus Sean knows him, from Houston, and watched him develop and told me to look out for him like, no, this guy is unworldly. The things he can do in the ring is incredible. Like, this guy can just walk through guys. And I'm like, okay. And then people's like, yeah, his power, guys who sparred him, like, yeah, his power is for real. Like, this kid is something special. But I'm watching him, and I'm like, when are they going to put him up there in the Diaz fight? A lot of people thought Diaz was going to beat him, and I'm Joel Duke, what's his name, Joel Diaz, and Joel Diaz is just destroyed. And that was supposed to be his real test. So I really think at this point, I just want to see what he does, like moving him up with more competition. But they're saying, because he's called out Terrence Crawford and Adrian Broner. And this is just a couple of months ago. He's like, I want them. These guys don't want me. Now, I think he's supposed to be fighting Victor Postal. That's his next fight. So
Postal's
we're going to see
playing it crafty, man. I think he's just training right now before he signs the contract, getting in shape, Like, I'm going to be all ready when camp starts, that type of thing. But, yeah, that is what's supposed to happen. That's a good one, though, because he's got the power and he's got skills. So that can set you apart, as we know. So real quick, 90 seconds left of the show. For those who want to call in, 646-381-4990. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
That was the part that was incredible to me. I was saying to myself, like, man, this is where, it normally goes into, the next realm for, like, the next level. Victor Postal is that gatekeeper. You beat Victor Postal, then the next guy should be able to come along. But for prospect of the year, the other kid from Golden Boy, he's pretty good. I don't think we can call Oscar Valdez a prospect anymore.
Right.
Man, a lot of guys that's coming up in the game that's going to be pretty exciting. It's just so many. It's hard to remember a year in one day. It's just
totally.
It's so much. Yeah, so
and a lot of times what happens in the winter and spring gets left aside by the end of the year, You're like, nah, that was the knockout of the year. It just happened in January, Yeah, you're right. And just overall, man, I was talking earlier about, like, the themes of the years, how we had a bunch of stadium fights and how we started having even more, like, busy, full afternoon and nights. Something that, we've never really had in years. That's been awesome. We also had a lot more 50-50, 55-44 or 55-45 type fights, you know what I mean? And also kind of what you're talking about, the youth was served. The old Lions started fading more this year, whereas in 2016 we kind of wanted that and it wasn't happening per se, or at least as much as we wanted, whereas this year, you're right, man, a lot of this youth is starting to take over.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the way I look at it now, and from where I looked at it then, is entirely different because things have definitely changed. And I'm looking at the system now that they got in place as far as, like, events. This whole year has been incredible. Like, for Fight of the Year, Event of the Year would have to go either Mayweather, McGregor, or Anthony Joshua and Klitschko. And I put that over Canelo Triple G any day. That was an event. The way they came out, the entrance, everything, and then that stadium. I mean, and then the performance that they put on in the ring. I'm like, there was barely a boring round in that fight. They were fighting. You saw an ebb and flow of one guy get knocked down, the other guy gets up, drops him again, drops the other guy. It went back and forth throughout the fight. And Joshua had to basically come back and score a knockout to win the fight, to close it out. And I'm like, he was coming back.
He was in trouble, too. He was tired for like 3 straight rounds.
Exactly, and he was taking big shots, like big right-hand shots from Klitschko. And if Klitschko had anything it left in the tank, that was it. Like, another fight with Joshua wasn't going to do anything but make Klitschko some more money, but it was right for him to just go and retire because there was nothing more he was going to be able to do. Before that right hand would have ended the night from a lot of other fighters. He was able. The shock was he was able to get up. So I was amazed by that alone.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, if you look at the bottom line, you got to go with Mayweather-McGregor, right, business-wise. But like you said, the scope of that stadium and then the actual fight, that basically is the event of the year for that. If you're going to talk bottom lines and all that, sure, you'd have to go with Mayweather-McGregor, because they made the most money. It drew $600 million, and it was a talker. I mean, that was a talker, whereas the Klitschko, AJ was a talker after,
Right. And the thing of the matter of the event was meaning that all the surroundings, like, it was massive. They did worldwide, from the press tour, from when they went to Canada, it was just massive. So there was no way, like, it became the highest grossing boxing fight in history, where everyone thought Manny Pacquiao, no one ever was going to beat that number. That number was wiped over when they came
remember,
over.
because pay-per-view sales were down, right, Carcino? They were down. It was all Mayweather's fault. It was all Pacquiao-Mayweather's fault. But then all of a sudden this year, we had 3 that were huge. If you look at it, this one and then both Canelo fights were big. They went over $1 million.
Yeah, because that's what I always tell people, if you make the fight, the people will pay. They will find a way to pay. There's nothing that's going to stop them from paying. People like to stay at home. They don't like to go out more. Everything that they come out with now is to keep you more at home than going out. So they prefer the event be sold out and you go at home and buy it. And pay-per-view. Yep. Stay at home. Spend your money. Buy it on pay-per-view. If you can't come out and spend money and go to the event, buy it at home. They preach that. They sell that to you. They say, go ahead and do that because now they know all the things are designed for you to be at home. Look at all the streaming services you got. Netflix is putting people out of business. The movie companies are losing, the movie theaters are losing money left and right because people are saying, I'll stay home and watch Netflix rather than go to a movie. They would rather sit at home. So the movie theaters are renovating their whole entire theaters to make it more at home by putting in lounge chairs and lounge couches and making it more like you're at home. They're like, you can kick up. We got the reclining sofas to make it just like home so that you can come to the movie theaters and relax and feel like you're at home. They want you to come to the movie theater. They want to get you out of the house. But it's hard because everything's designed to keep you in. So they're used to spending money online or paying for some pay-per-view and having an event at home where they get to be the host. They love this stuff. And when the fights come around, that's all the guys are going to do, get their buddies around. They're going to, hey, we're going to host a party, have people over, we're going to all watch the fight. Most of them guys, they barely watch the fight or know what's going on anyway. But they're going to spend the money. They want to be part of the event. To say it, even if it sucks, just to say it sucks. They're going to pay their money. So it was a big event for pay-per-view. I say pay-per-view had a better win this year than any other year because in 2017 they knew how to monitor pay-per-view. They weren't going to have a massive, big budget pay-per-view and they spending all this money for, and it's not worth it. Now, if it was something that was small and on pay-per-view that was going to cost like $18 or something like that, then they would do it.
Sure.
You know, when they put the fight with Victor Postal on with Terrence Crawford,
with
it
Crawford
wasn't done
and
right.
Lemieux and Golovkin, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Now, when you do smart pay-per-view, you know, you set something up where it's on like ESPN pay-per-view or something like that. When they did like with a Pacquiao fight, you're gonna get your little bump with money every now and then, just those bumps coming in. I don't know what else they're going to do with Manny Pacquiao, though. If he's retired, he should just really retire because there's nothing more for him here in the boxing game. It's really all done. I've had a hard time trying to figure out, like, man, what are they going to do, you know, with Manny and, you know, his next move? It just doesn't seem right. So, like, I want to see more of what's going to happen in the future with all these other boxers they got coming up. But Manny Pacquiao is just a walking luxury ticket. They're still out there. And he doesn't want to retire. He can't afford to. It's sad with all the money he's grown. That in the end of it, he's going to be the one, like, looking around like, where did it all go? What happened? Manny Pacquiao's career is one big, like, question mark of, wow. Where did my career go? Like, where did my money go? Because he spends so much, and it seems like he has no clue on how to budget it. Because there's no way fighting Mayweather he should have went broke. Now they're really adamantly trying to fight Conor McGregor. And it's like,
right.
Of course, he needs that fight.
Yeah.
But,
that's the fight for him right there.
But
no, you're right. And the
longer
longer he's out, you know? Yeah, you're right. And the longer he's out, it's just like, dude, you can't just get by and beat guys on your talent and just going, 80% in camp. You got to, you could tell he didn't show up that it was going to, for that Horn fight like it was going to be a tough fight. You know what I mean? He thought, all right, I'm just going to get my money and I'll train. I'm going to train. It just, do you have that hunger still where you got to go full in camp? And, it's happened to a lot of fighters. And the more time he's out, man, he's got to get back in the ring if he wants to keep going because you can't take another year off or anything like that. But, yeah, you're right. It'll be interesting. For knockout of the year, we have Deontay Wilder. We have Mikey Garcia. We have David Lemieux. You can pick whichever Jermell Charlo knockout you want. You could take either one of them. Of course, you had Rungvisai. That was pretty much a shocker. Hugo Centeno, not long ago, knocked out Olim. David Benavidez over Porker Maidana. Just to name a few. Which ones stand out for you for knockout of the year, Carcino?
Wow. That's hard.
Hey, there's a lot of them.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to say that one was let me see. Even though it was shocking, because even though we thought running this side would probably lose in a decision, because of the performances that he's been having, I didn't expect. I mean, it didn't shock me when he was knocked out. With Chocolatito was knocked out. That kind of didn't shock me at all. I think the shock is when I think Ronda's side beat the guy from Japan. That was a shock, more of a shocker than the one when he knocked out. He won with a body shot over a guy. He won Ronda's side won over in Japan or whatever. He beat the guy who hadn't lost before he even to get the fight with Chocolatito. Man, that is a tough call, man.
It is tough. Which one?
Goodness.
Lemieux, Charlo, Garcia, Wilder? David Benavidez with his 9-punch knockout?
I'm going to go with, I'm trying to think which Charlo one I would probably take. I'll say the shock was the one over Julian. I would say that one was probably the more of a shock to me. The one over Julian. So, and I think that was Jamal. I never saw that happening that quick. I never saw that happen as an option.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Oh, you know what though? I think that was actually. I think that was December 2016. Now I think about it. Yeah, I wrote that one down too. Yeah, I wrote that down too, but I'm wrong actually. Yeah, no.
Well then,
that was December. I guess you go with the other brother.
Yeah, I would probably go with it. I would probably do that one more. That one, then I definitely would put in my surprising knockout was Saddam Ali getting knocked out or stopped but that wasn't a knockout. That was more of a stoppage when he beat Saddam Ali the way he did. That was a shock. But Errol Spence over Kell Brooks by knockout, winning by knockout, stoppage, or everything. Most brutal knockout was Canelo on Amir Khan, of course.
But that was last year, though. That wasn't this year.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, okay.
I'd say Lemieux and Wilder may have been the most punishing. At least it looked like that.
Definitely. I mean, but we all knew. We all knew Severn was out. They had the most devastating knockout of the year. Definitely.
Right.
So that was like hitting the light switch and cutting everything off. They just
you make a good point, though. There is a difference of surprise or just knock the F out, or that plays into it. 2 more categories left: Fighter of the Year and Fight of the Year. Let's go with Fighter of the Year. Is it Crawford? Is it Lomachenko? Is it Mikey Garcia? Is it Rungvisai? You know, there's a lot of guys with 1 win, but only fought once. Andre Ward, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. Even Leo Santa Cruz had that one quality win against Frampton, but then, you know, didn't fight maybe as like more of a tune-up fight after that. Who do you got for Fight of the Year? Crawford, Loma, Garcia, Rungvisai, Joshua. Obviously, I think you got to put him in there too. What do you think, man? Because this one, for me, this is a tough year, man.
This is a tough one. Matter of fact, because I could put Andre Ward in there for knockout of the year because
True.
No one ever thought Andre Ward was going to knock Kovalev out and stop him. I had thought that he could, but I thought he would probably drop him because of the body shots and the things that he did in the first fight. Then I thought he would win easy, but never in that fashion. I didn't think he would be able to buzz him like he did in Hurt. So I would change my knockout of the year definitely to Andre Ward Kovalev, too. So let's get that one assessed. Fighter of the year, I want to go with Terrence Crawford because I still think he's the better fighter of the two with Lomachenko.
Sure.
The most monumental win on the resume would go with Lomachenko, but I'm going to go with Terrence Crawford. I think he had more, on paper, tougher competition than Lomachenko. Lomachenko, to me, this year didn't really have too much of competition except for Rigondeaux. That was it. And that was the signature fight where the best was fighting the best fighter, literally. But I think Terrence Crawford just got a bad deal that he just beat these guys so easily. And
that's the thing that separates both of them, I thought, this year.
Yeah,
both of them separate themselves compared to the other ones. You know, they really one-sided their guys this year.
And he unified all 4 titles, and that's never really been done, ever.
I mean, 12 years since Undisputed. I mean, that's freaking crazy. Since even having one, not even at 140, but just in general. That's pretty crazy.
Right. So I'm like, my goodness. So now you got somebody with all 4 belts in the division, and he went through all the champions. He fought Victor Postol, a guy that people avoided. You know, he fought Diaz from the Olympics, who was great, and he made him look like an amateur when he fought him.
Yeah.
He just walked through it.
Toyed with him.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very good year. I mean, he's done tremendous this year, so I could take nothing away from Bud Crawford. I mean, what more do they want him to do? He's going up to 147. He cleaned the division out at 140 from the guys that would fight him. Everybody's at 47. He's calling out Keith Thurman. He's calling out these guys at 147. He said, well, you're the big guy at 147, Keith. I'll fight Keith Thurman any day of the week. Let's make the fight with Keith Thurman. He didn't come in there saying, let me get a tune-up. He said, well, let me get Keith Thurman. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to him at welterweight.
Yeah, I want to see what he does at welterweight, and everyone thinks, my friend, me and him were having a debate because he believes Errol Spence can beat him, and that's the fight. He's like, they're never going to fight. I'm like, I would never say never on that.
Right.
I would never say never
not next year,
fight.
But yeah, at some point I think they will fight.
Yeah. Definitely.
It definitely will be next year.
If Keith Thurman, either one, Keith Thurman is that common denominator. One of them are going to have to fight. Either Errol's going to fight him, or Terrence Crawford's going to fight him. Something's got to happen in that bunch. So I'm looking forward to that moment in time to see what happens there. Because that's a very intriguing fight on my table. I'm like, on my call and sheet, that is the type of fight I want to be a part of. I want to see. That's what. That's the best fight in the best. But I'm gonna go with Terrence Crawford as my fighter of the year.
So one more, then we'll let you get back to the heat or that breeze that's coming in through the winter. To the window, I should say. Fight of the year. Now, obviously, the ones that stand out, Anthony Joshua Klitschko, Gonzalez Rungvisai, the first one, Badu Jack DeGale, Jarrett Hurd and Austin Trout. That was a good-ass fight. The one that just happened, Molina and Redkach, earlier in the year. You know, a lot of people talking about Salido and Roman, but I think that Mira and Roman earlier in January, that was a better fight. Then you do have Canelo Golovkin, Spence Brook. Broner and Granados is a pretty underrated fight. Ramirez and Hart, that was a good fight. Hurd Harrison. What's your Oscar Valdez was kind of in 2 hard fights. Mariaga and that Cervania or whatever. Those are 2 tough fights for him right there. What do you think, man? What's your fight of the year this year?
Man, my fight of the year is Wow, I had a lot of them up there. But Badu Jack and James DeGaulle, to me, was definitely fight of the year. That was my Rock'em Sock'em robots right there. Because that fight had an ebb and flow like I had never seen. I never expected DeGaulle to drop Badu Jack that early in the fight.
Right.
Never thought. And I'm like, wow, that shocked me. Then Badu Jack came back and started winning some rounds. And then here comes DeGaulle again. And I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that. Then in the very last round, Badu Jack gets the knockdown when it looked like he needed to score a knockout to win. He knocked a tooth out in the fight. I'm like, this is a tooth was flying out in the middle of the fight. He knocked this guy down in the last round, almost knocked him out, and the fight ends in a draw. And it's like, oh, man. And for Badu Jack, this is 2 draws in a row. And I'm just like, oh, man.
You're right, though. The ebbs and flows, man, the back and forth. It looked like one guy would take some momentum, then the other guy would bring it back, and it was just a rough, hard fight, man. It definitely deserves to be up there, if not the fight of the year, man. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
You got any last things you want to talk about at all, man?
Yeah, Danny Garcia just confirmed. I was chatting with him. He told me Merry Christmas and everything like that, but he didn't want to get on any shows and talk. But he was just saying confirmed that February 17th looks like him and Brandon Rios. And, he wouldn't confirm Rios, but Rios is going to be the guy that they're going to choose for this fight on the 17th. And everybody wanted to know my take on it, and I told people that this fight could go either way, and they think it's a joke. And I'm like, no, you're going to see a real action-packed fight. I was like, I would lean towards, 100% lean towards Danny Garcia for that fight.
Right.
Because we've seen Rios not take to the weight too well, or he's too big for the weight class. So we've seen him not at his best. So for us, that makes more sense to take Danny Garcia. But I'm like, Danny is not going to go forward and make this a brawl type fight. He's going to definitely take this to the. He's going to take his time. He's going to be patient. He's going to make sure he's got the proper everything before he makes a move. That's how Danny Garcia moves and operates. I'm like, he's a counterpuncher. Rios is the guy who's got to initiate the offense.
Right.
And I'm like, he's pretty crafty in there. If he can get Danny Garcia in a firefight on the inside, Rios can catch him with something uniform. Danny's got the power to get his attention probably because he's another guy that came up from 140. And they're banking on that being the success route that they could take. Like, okay, well, we were really successful doing this. Maybe this will work again. So they're looking at it to take that, angle as far as going into this fight. But Rios, depending on which Rios we get, this could be the one we really we find out.
Well, he does seem to be like dedicating himself to the weight now too. You can see it in his face. You know what I mean? Before you'd be like, oh, dude, he looks so bloated right now. But you know what it reminds me of, Carcino? A lot of people dogged the Garcia-Guerrero fight 2 years ago. And it turned out to be a pretty good scrap. It was like 8-4, 7-5 Garcia. He actually was on the back foot countering like you mentioned too. I could see it look a lot like that. I could see it look a lot like that. Which it was an entertaining fight. It was entertaining. Now, did you feel like Garcia was ever going to lose the fight? Not necessarily, but it was fun to watch.
Absolutely. And I was saying to myself, because when I was looking at the fight, I was saying to myself, I said, well, this fight is like a mirror of what happened when he was up against the world after losing the Alvarado fight, the second fight. When they came back for the third fight, he was in the best shape, and he was like the vintage old Brandon Rios.
Yeah.
He was focused because everybody was like, oh, he's going to get beat again. But then they blamed Alvarado with his such bad condition that they were just like, oh, well, that's Mike Alvarado. He's getting beat up. You know, there's nothing for him. So forget Mike. He's got nothing. He's washed up. You know, he's got all this trouble. So that's why Rios won. But I was like, yeah, granted, that is true. But
sure.
He was a shell of his old self.
But the way he
would have lost
looked,
to that Rios either way. Because Rios
Exactly.
was prepared. He was sharp.
This holiday season makes a smart choice and put
So he was
Oh,
sharp.
shit. Oh. Okay. I thought I was about to get down, dude.
So then you got a situation with the next fight they got with Victor Ortiz making his fifth comeback. As he takes on, Devin Alexander.
Devin Alexander, yeah.
Yeah, so now that fight is official. From what I heard, that's official. That's going on also in the beginning of the year on PBC. So
Right.
Oh, I gotta get my seatbelt on. So yeah, but that's the fight. Another comeback from Victor Ortiz, and I'm trying to figure out why in the world do they keep trying to waste money with Victor Ortiz? Now, Victor's problem is he mostly quits in fights. He just like, I don't need this. He gets hit, he's really doing well, then he gets cracked, boom, and it's like, why should I even give it a shot?
Yeah, it all comes back to him like, oh, I would have won this fight too if it wasn't for that. Like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was winning, man, and I fell asleep. I was like, yep, you fell asleep. The thing about Ortiz is like he has some ability. He's basic fighter. He comes forward. He's not really defensive minded. His thing is use force to come forward and come in a straight line. He doesn't really set any traps. Devin Alexander's a better boxer, but he's a guy who ran out of real estate as far as boxing class. As he's stuck in that amateurish ways, but his major problem is the fact that he can't get out of his own way. Devin Alexander's main thing is he can't get out of his own way because he cannot adjust to another style. He plays that one little tip-tap, step to the side, tip-tap. If you get close, I'll shoot an uppercut. Then it's back to a tip-tap jab. No authoritative punches. And I'm like, at 140, you can get away with that fighting these little guys. But at 47, these guys are too big. You're gonna run out of guys you can get out of that case to pick on and say, okay, here we go. And once he caught Juan Urango with that uppercut, when they put the pillows on Juan Urango, I knew they put Juan Urango in some of the biggest pillow gloves I've ever seen in my life. And then he knocked him out with the uppercut, and I figured that would happen, and I even picked a round for that fight. And I was like, okay, here we go. He fought Timothy Bradley, and that was the first time he fought somebody who was just as rugged and just making him feel uncomfortable. And it was the first time he'd been in like a pro brawl. And he's just like, my goodness, suffered his first cut off a headbutt, and he just panicked.
Yeah,
And
he kept blinking. I can't see. It's like, well, stop blinking, dog. You can see. Open up your eyes, man. It's just bleeding. You know,
right.
Your eye's not cut.
And exactly, and that became the fallout of everything about Devin Alexander. Like, everything just started falling away ever since then. Everything he did just fell to the wayside because it was over. And a lot of people say, okay, this is how you beat Devin. He's not experienced enough. And this is a guy who almost fought Floyd Mayweather. He almost had a fight with Floyd.
And when he knocked out Urango and lifted him off the canvas a little bit, people were on the bandwagon, like, "Oh, dude, this dude's the real deal." After that,
Yeah, I was on the bandwagon too. I thought, like,
it was hard not to be.
40, but I knew him moving up in weight was going to be a problem for him because I was like, he's a small guy and he's a really small dude. Like, for him to stay at that weight class for as long as he did, and I'm like, he goes to 47, his body can only do this for so long. Once he go up against these big guys, will he be able to take those shots? See, people start thinking about, oh, he's filled out. He's solid now. I'm like, when Floyd Mayweather went to 47, he wasn't a 147 until after he came back and fought Marquez. He was not a filled-out welterweight until he came back and fought Marquez. He looked like one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in there with Marquez. People thought he was 160
because same with Shane, too. Same with that Shane fight. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, okay. Yep, he's a 147 now.
Right, because the Marquez fight showed you. He was that's when he was a full welterweight. Because when he retired after he fought Ricky Hatton, he was still a small 140-ish guy. When he fought Beldemir and De La Hoya, he was a small guy. He wasn't a big guy.
Very true. Well, I'm gonna have to. I got a couple of callers left. We got about a half hour left, so we got to get through some of this stuff. But I appreciate you calling in on a holiday, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem. All right, guys. Y'all have a great show, and all right. Good night.
All right, take it easy, man. Enjoy the weather.
All right. Thanks, I will. I'll catch you next Wednesday.
Man, I wish I was in Tampa right now. So, let me get to Mark 310. What's going on, man? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Chris? Been a long time. How you been, man? What's going on?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I had a good little Christmas. Got to catch up with the family, and I always like doing these year-end shows. It's pretty fun. I've kind of made my way all the way up to probably knockout of the year or something like that. Did you get a chance to catch up with any family at all over the Christmas holiday?
Physically, no, but yeah, kind of is what it is. I kind of just I'm a workaholic, so I'm kind of just always on my own little grind. But I don't really pay attention to the holidays. But yeah,
right.
It's nice to get to relax for a little bit for a couple of days and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
that's what it's about.
Who did you? I mean, we can go over some of the basics. The knockout, the fighter of the year. We don't have to go over every single solitary, category. But fighter of the year is an interesting one, and there's a lot of arguments to be made. Who do you have for your fighter of the year? A lot of the top two seem to be Lomachenko and Crawford. Now there is some guys that had some good one fights, like Leo Santa Cruz and Andre Ward and Thurman and Spence, and they had that one quality win, but didn't follow it up at all. Then some people are saying Rung Visai because they knocked out, he knocked him out. Some people are saying Anthony Joshua. What are your thoughts? Some people are saying Mikey Garcia as well because he had a productive year. What are your thoughts, man?
Oh, like you said, it's tough. And because this year was so fucking good. It was awesome. I don't remember a year that was this good for boxing in the longest time, And, I kind of saw it coming a little bit, because you could just see things like building up for a minute. And it was such a fucking good year. That's why it's good that it's hard to fucking choose one.
Exactly.
You got to kind of if it were me, I would break it down into categories because I feel like a bunch of people need to be mentioned in certain categories. Like, for example, I like if I'm going to talk about popularity-wise, I want to mention Errol Spence and Anthony Joshua because they really made their fucking mark on the sport this year, 100%. they really captured the imaginations of the fans, for sure, 100%. Like, they both had great fights this year. Everyone wanted them to fucking do good, and they did. They fucking rose to the occasion, and they fucking made it happen. And, like, you know, so you can't just be like, fuck that. Like, you know, like, just because the amount of fights that they had, or good fights that they had, were limited. I mean, what Earl Spence did is fucking like shit. Like, he really put the whole world on notice. Same thing with Anthony Joshua, how he fucking came back in the fight. I mean, that's
right.
And with how that's why I say popularity, with how they came, like really popularity wise, those two guys, I think, are like the future of, you know, just. If there's gonna be a pay-per-view star, it should be one of them, and so they should be mentioned as far as fighter of the year goes. But Mikey, like you said, Mikey Garcia. I mean, shit. The way that he dominated both of his fights was like,
yep.
Shit. Did he lose one round this year?
A round, yeah, exactly.
No,
that's true.
He did not. And his competition. Even though I did say that Dejan was tailor-made for him, a lot of people thought that Dejan was going to give him problems. A lot of people thought that Linares ducked Dejan, that people were ducking. Like, you know, it was a well built-up fight. The fact that he got him out of there and the fashion how he got him out of there is great. And then you got Adrian Broner, which he's the only guy to do that to Adrian Broner. Everyone likes to hate on Adrian Broner, but you know what?
That's a good point.
He's good,
especially at 140.
He's a good
too.
fighter. Oh yeah, at 140, and he was focused. Adrian Broner was in there to win that fight, you know. Well, or was ready to win that fight. I don't know about after the first few rounds.
Right.
But
yeah, you're
you
right.
Know what I mean? Like,
being ready to go.
like he walked in there trying to win, basically, you know. So we got to mention Mikey Garcia. But I mean, well, who the two you mentioned? Lomachenko versus Terrence in the beginning, dude. Like, I think that like Lomachenko shouldn't even be mentioned this year. I mean, because honestly, and I get into it a little bit more in a second, but I mean, he's not. I mean, yeah, he's a great fighter, great skills and all that shit, but he kind of proved this year that he's like. I mean, well, his fights this year were fraudulent as fuck. I mean, so we can't even put him on the list, Lomachenko. Plus, he won it last year and the year before, but last year his fucking knockouts were real. You know, like, so I mean, you can't walk in there and have three guys take dives. And hey, you know what? I mean, hey, at least the guys. I mean, yeah, okay. It's not like they faked getting hit and fucking like, you know, like some Malik Scotch. It's not like they did that, but they all quit right before the fucking over. They all took deals. They all did some shady shit. So we can't even mention Lomachenko. I mean, yes, he's a great fighter. What he's doing to them before they quit is fucking great. But I don't like, and I'm sure anyone with a brain that really thinks about it, dude, you can't really, come on. There's something suspicious about these guys quitting right before the fucking over. Every single one of them, including fucking Rigo, who was a fucking great fighter. He's a great defensive fighter. You think this guy couldn't have fucking just at least tried to survive until the 12th round? Come on, man. What the fuck? He took a fucking dive for a payout and just quit right beforehand. But whatever.
The reason why I brought those two up, because that's who you see most people doing. Those are the leaders.
Everybody.
But it doesn't mean I think that. But yeah, it seems like it's like a decision between. And I do have a problem with their opponents. I really do, as far as giving them the fight of the year, because you could look at a guy like Andre Ward, who knocked somebody out that nobody thought he'd knock out. You know,
exactly.
And that could be the fighter of the year based off that one win. Look at Leo Santa Cruz bouncing back. Like, I don't know. You're right about the layers. You know, you're right about the layers.
Yeah.
So
because
because we still got 503 to get to. He's got to, get a little segment in there too. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah. I would probably say Terrence. I would definitely say Terrence, just because of the way that the the way that he got him out of there. Like both the dudes. I mean, Felix Diaz and Indongo were both dudes that we all thought were gonna at least give him a fight. And
right.
He did really, really good, and he really put everyone on notice in the sense that hey, I'm the fucking best at 140. Proved it. And he's basically he's calling everyone out at 147. So he's got to be fighter of the year. Terrence for sure, 100%. He's a real fighter. He's a throwback fighter. He's like Spence, for sure.
Yeah, he is. You're right. He 100% is. No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your fight of the year? Well, what stood out to you? The AJ Klitschko, the Herd Trout, the Jack DeGale. The Rungvisai Gonzalez #1 was a pretty damn good fight. What stands out to you as the fight?
In terms of anticipation, the build up to the fight, and then the way that the fight actually turned out, it would be definitely Kell Brook, Earl Spence for sure. Because you had the European thing, and how boxing is so big out there, and the whole little rivalry that was sort of starting to develop a little bit, and then the way that the fight actually turned out, and those were two guys that were actually trying to fucking win, and that's I mean, the anticipation to it was fucking crazy. I know I was so excited. I was counting down the fucking days. I wasn't thinking about anything else in my life for 2 days before. I was like, holy shit, this is just boxing.
True, man.
You gotta fucking relax.
And it took so long to get there because of those injury. I was like, dude, when are you gonna fight Spence, man? You're right. The whole first part of the year was like, please, Spence, get a fight. Let him get a fight. Yeah, you're right. In the way he had to go into enemy territory and get it done. Yeah.
And he did it. And he did it, and the way that he did it was fucking great. And it was it was a combination of so many different things, like a three-dimensional chess match. For a while, it did go back and forth. It went back and forth for a minute, and the way that it ended off, it was it really felt like the fight of the year. But
and then he started grinding it out, getting to the body and starting to hit those hooks up, and
slowly
you're right. It was
down,
but kept going, no matter if he was in touch with that jab or not,
For sure. Got to probably claim that one. But, obviously for the regular person or whatever that wasn't that crazy about the build up to Spence and Brook, I guess you got to say Joshua and Klitschko, Yeah, that was a great fight, too. But for me, Spence and Brook, that was fucking great. Fucking great.
Yeah, it really was, man. And just the stadium fights this year, dude. It's so awesome, man.
The build up before, when Spence was walking out, if anyone watches closely, I actually just watched the fight 2 weeks ago. I was in a bad mood, and I hadn't seen the fight in a while, and I was like, oh, let me just watch this fight. And if you watch when Spence was walking out, the fans were so hardcore. I love UK fans, man. They were so into it that they were yelling at Spence when he was coming out, you were gonna get fucking knocked out, fuck you. They were serious, and it was great the way that he walked out there and did what he did, and on both sides, it was great for the UK fans. To see that type of passion on that level is really awesome. It makes me want to look forward to the future as far as UK boxers and shit like that, and makes me want to see one of their fights for sure.
Who you got for knockout of the year? Mikey Garcia, David Lemieux, Wilder.
It's tough. It's tough because there were so fucking many. But I gotta say, we gotta call it KO Artist of the Year. I'm gonna say Jermell. Definitely Jermell Charlo.
Yeah.
Because the way that he knocked both of them out was because he's the only one that had two of them, he did. His brother did good, but I forgot what his the second fight, the fight after Julian, that knockout looked like. I forgot what that looked like. Was it an out cold knockout?
That was that guy that's the guy who messed up his knee, and so it was dude was limping, and he just kind of knocked him out.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I would definitely give it to Jermell just because the way that he knocked both of them out it was like straight cold, fucking real knockout. That's what I like to see for sure. Gotta say that.
That's a good call.
What's next?
And they were legit. Well, I mean, it's really up to you. If you want to do prospect of the year, if you want to do robbery of the year.
Let me just say really quick. Well, okay, first, most hated fighter of the year. The fighter that has accumulated the most amount of hate this fucking year, and that would be Keith Thurman. I know you've noticed this.
True.
Everyone
Very
has
true.
hated. It's turned upside down on Keith Thurman.
Ever since he started moving in the 10th round, it's been nothing but hate since. Once he started moving in the 10th round, this whole year has been all hate. That's a good call. That's a very good call.
And hey, it's for good reason too. You got a 140-pounder standing in front of you, and you're supposed to be one time. Why are you running away from him? You're supposed to get him the fuck out of there, or at least dominate him. You were supposed to dominate Danny Garcia.
At least throw a punch every 10 seconds or something. You know what I mean? Like, I understand trying to have a lead, but you can't just run away the last 3 rounds.
Yeah, not blatantly and then even admit to it afterwards. Don't do that. That's the reason why I do condone the hate. But if you look at the comments on all of his YouTube videos, he is getting hated big time. People do not like him. People do they do not like. And I +1 to a lot of the hate. So fucking hey, keep going, guys. And then the other one that I mentioned last year's fraud of the year, I wanted to bring this up again because you know, really really quick. It's between 2 guys. Obviously Lomachenko or Triple G. Okay, Lomachenko, just because, dude, he didn't have one real fight this fucking year, and it sucks because this guy has so much fucking talent. He has so much fucking talent, but you know what? I really do. His power is very, very, it's not, he doesn't sit down on his punches. CTE has said this multiple times, and if anyone listening doesn't pay attention to what CT says, you notice, he said this a long time ago. He said, Lomachenko does not sit down on his punches as much as he should, and it's 100% accurate. He doesn't get that much power behind his punches, and so he doesn't. These guys quit, and we don't know why. It happens to be right before the and some shady shit is going on. And Bob Arum is really old right now, and I wouldn't doubt if he just doesn't give a fuck, and he's just trying to promote as much shit as possible, and trying to do as much as possible before he's fucking out of here. So I mean, it's that. What's going on with Lomachenko right now? I feel for Lomachenko because if they gave him some real these guys got to stop quitting because it makes people like me that are skeptics not give him the credit that he deserves, because he does deserve the fucking credit. But we don't know if these guys are crying.
And the casual fan is at home going, "What the hell just happened? That was bullshit." What do you mean the fight though?
Why,
it don't know what's anything. You're right. That hurts, especially with that big rating.
So you're just not going to come out? What the fuck? Come on, man. At least try. Or whatever. I mean, come on, dude. And then, obviously, Triple G is fucking self-explanatory. You know, I mean, his 2 fights this year have exposed what I've been talking about for a long time beforehand. And, you know, everyone realizes now that Triple G was a hype job created by fucking HBO. He's got a great style. I really do like his style. Gained a lot of respect for him for how he fought fucking Canelo. But it's self-explanatory. But these people out there, and whoever's listening to this, what's funny is a lot of people are so brainwashed that they only believe what they want to believe. A really popular YouTube channel the other day said that Triple G, what's going to happen though when Billy Joe Saunders gets hit by Triple G? It's dude, not only why are you still believing in this nonsense?
Still saying that,
when
right? Yeah.
when first of all, I told you that it was bullshit. Number one, number two, then Danny Jacobs tells you it's bullshit. Then Canelo tells you immediately after the fight that his power is bullshit, but you still believe in it. You know, like, so I mean, it's one of those things where people just gotta trust your own. Like, stop paying attention. Like, what do you just listen to whatever Jim Lampley says and just believe it, or you just you know, like you just believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. I mean, it's bullshit, and they gotta stop doing that to fucking fans. You see right through that shit. We want real fights, not bullshit.
I agree, and there's a couple of media members out there that spark fuel to that fire, and you're like, oh my God, they just got them brainwashed, like
still
overly brainwashed.
Like, come on.
It's right. All right, buddy, we got 8 minutes left, so we're gonna get 5:03 in there. I appreciate it, though. Have a great New Year, man.
For sure, man. You too. Later, Chris.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks as always. Appreciate it, Mark, for everything you've done to the show and just you calling in as well. Portland 503. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Because for me and people like me, it is not something that they ever care to see. They've watched it. It's horrible. Guys rolling around like homosexuals on the ground. I mean, it is not a sport that shows great talent. The guys who throw punches can't throw a punch to save their ass.
Yo, what up, dog? Hey, what up, Chris? I had to slide it. I had to slide that in there. Bro. You know what I mean? Because you know where I pledge my allegiance to. You know what I mean? The sport of boxing. You know what I mean? My favorite fucking sport that I'll always love. I've been watching it since I was in the 6th grade, and it's never been more exciting. You know what I mean? Like, it's always exciting after every fight, after every year. I'm just more excited about the sport. The older I get, the better the fights get. And man, boy, Bob Arum, you know, that's a famous quote. If you're a boxing fan, you know that fucking quote that he says, man, because we you know, he'll trash that shit all day. And you know, this year has been kind of a weird year with you know, Floyd and Conor, you know, fucking up everything. But you know what I'm saying. I'm here to talk boxing. And that's the sport that I love. But how you doing, Chris? I hope you had a happy holidays, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm doing good. I hope you had one as well. I'm going to take you through this so we can get to it because
right.
we're on a crunch. So, prospect-wise, who stood out to you?
Michael Conlan. I got Michael Conlan just because he's been on pretty sweet undercards. You know what I mean? Like, he's been on the under Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Crawford. And I believe he was on that pay-per-view card with that champion. Fuck, I forget his name, but he fought Mariaga that night.
Well,
his
debut, was off the chain too. Yeah, that's a good call.
So I'm gonna give it to Michael Conlan just because I've seen more of him than any other prospect, including like Shakur Stevens, and I have been following Michael Conlan's career since he became pro, and every time he fights, he puts up a hell of a fight, an entertaining fight for the fans, and him being Irish, man, that just makes it even more sweeter because they come to fight. So, but yeah, prospect of the year goes to Michael Conlan.
I agree with that. Knockout of the year. Who's your knockout of the year? Mine is David Lemieux. Well, what's yours?
David Lemieux. All right, dude. Mine. I gotta go with my man, Charlo over Lubin. First round KO. I'm gonna go with that one just because it's so rare for boxing for a boxer to get a first round KO. This is not MMA, so that knockout send a signal to all the 54-pounders out there that hey, watch your mouth. You know what I mean? So Charlo doing what he did to Lubin, and especially this one because everybody saw it as a 50-50 fight, and it's another fight that I got right, and I got to go with my guy Charlo over Lubin. First round KO because that one was a special KO. You know what I mean? That's the ones that you'll remember forever. So I'm going with that one.
Yeah. No doubt, because you're right. A lot of people were anticipating that fight. You could tell by the crowd as well. Who had the event of the year for you? I had Joshua
event of the year, man. Yeah, dude. In all due respect, man, it's Joshua Klitschko, because I mean, just like you said earlier, 90,000 people screaming British fans. You know what I mean? It's that atmosphere that day was fucking so electrifying. Man, it blew any event out of the water for here in the States. Not even Kovalev Ward, Triple G Canelo, Mayweather McGregor. We couldn't do what they did over there. So shout out to Joshua Klitschko, man. They put on a fucking hell of an event there.
No doubt. We're gonna go over the top 2 fighter of the year and fight of the year, and then we'll work our way down for the time. But just so we get these main ones in, who is your fighter of the year?
Yeah, so this one I got Terrence Crawford. I just think him unifying 4 belts did a lot for the sport. You could talk about all the Lomachenko and Triple G. Ward retired, or else he would be my fighter of the year. But Terrence Crawford unifying all 4 belts and making it look easy. It goes to him. No doubt about it.
Yeah, mine's like Andre Ward, Lomo, or Crawford. I'm going Crawford as well. Mm-hmm. Fight of the year. Now, we have A.J. Klitschko. We have Herb Trout. We have Jack DeGale, Gonzalez, Rungvisai. We have Mira against Roman. We have Canelo, Triple G, Spence Brook, Aleem versus Kitrov. We got a variety of them. Ramirez versus Hart. Actually, Oscar Valdez, both of his fights you could put in the top 10 or top 15. Who do you got for fight of the year?
Yeah, fight of the year is pretty simple to me, man. It's got to go to Joshua Klitschko. Them being heavyweights, we saw an upcoming, a rising star being made, you know what I mean? So, only sky's the limit for Anthony Joshua from now on, but what that event did, you know what I mean? It being everywhere. I mean, that fight took place in England, but here in America, we heard all about it, including casual fans. I got to go with Joshua versus Klitschko as fight of the year.
And the only reason why I don't do that one is because I think there was enough lulls in there, even though it was action-packed and knocked him out, dragged down. I think there was enough lulls. I actually am going Emmanuel Aleem and Kitrov. It's a 6-8 rounder. It was nuts. Oh, wow. It was on Showtime Extreme. That's my fight of the year. So we got a couple of minutes left. We'll just keep going and see what happens. Who do you got for upset of the? Oh, I know your robbery of the year. Is it Murata like me? Hassan and Dom, Murata got robbed. Remember that earlier in this year? I'd say that might be the robbery of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I'll go with that one. I don't really remember too many robberies besides Pacquiao Horn. But I mean that one's up for debate. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'll have to go with that one. Yeah, the one you just mentioned. Yeah, I'll go with that one.
And Carson Jones got robbed on a technical decision, and so did Ivan Golub, or Golub. I forgot his damn name.
Not in my eyes. Margarito won that shit.
Yeah, right. Upset of the year. And this is kind of upset of the year, comeback fight of the year, too. You could probably combo it up.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kodo Ali as the front runner, just because, a lot of people thought that, Kodo was going to demolish that kid. You know what I mean? Everybody was saying stoppage. And Ali pulled off the upset with the, unanimous decision. And plus that Pacquiao Horn, we've already seen Pacquiao, with a robbery, or an upset loss with, Timothy Bradley. So, there's nothing new there. And with Kodo, he was in my opinion, he was such a heavy favorite, and ended up losing. So, but yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, Truax, Mikey Garcia, Sullivan Barrero, Billy Joe Saunders, Leo Santa Cruz, they could all be under that as well with the comeback fighter of the year. And upset fighter, Saddam. I'd say Saddam or Truax you'd have to probably give. Who was the promoter of the year? Maybe that'll be our last one. Promoter of the year.
Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn.
All right. Eddie Hearn.
Who was your network of the year?
Showtime.